Club news, transfer news, match previews, legend interviews, Spurs women, press conferences, covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. It is a year ago since we've done one of these episodes, keep, sell, loan or rip up the contract. In this edition, we will literally be going through every single Spurs player in Ange Postecoglou's squad, giving our opinions on whether Spurs should keep the player, sell the player, loan the player out for next season or rip up the contract. I think that some of the guests today are going to be very nice and I think some of them are going to be very brutal about certain players. So we have got a fantastic lineup of guests today. We have got Richard Whitehead, MBE, with us. Of course, the man who brings the trophies to this channel. I was with Richard on Sunday. He done a run with Rich event. It was absolutely fantastic. Rich, welcome to the channel again. Thanks so much for coming on and tell everyone about the Richard Whitehead Foundation.
Awesome work. Yeah, I really appreciate your support. Like I said before, Chris, Run with Rich is an event fully inclusive for anybody. And it's not actually about the run itself. It's about coming together and participating in some physical exercise, enabling your ambitions with no barriers and obstacles. I think when we think about sport, there's lots of rules around time, distance, and we just open that up to a safe space for anybody to come down and you experience that with obviously your friends and your son. And I think for me, it's about kind of sharing those opportunities of like diversity. And my event in Nottingham is something that we do once a year, and we're going to hopefully do one in London in September. And it's just about coming together of people and enjoying sport, which we all do, obviously as Spurs fans as well.
Richard, I don't know how much you can say or what background you can give about certain individuals, but I tell you what, full respect to everybody who'd done that run, either the 5K or the 1 mile, because, you know, as you say there, lots of people from lots of different backgrounds and disabilities, and everyone was included.
Yeah, and we had one young lad called William who the year before had just got some running prosthetics, never ran in his life. And this year he'd ran the 5K with his running prosthetics, and it took him 2.5 hours of endeavour to get round the course. Incredible endeavour. Those that have like done something and you kind of go, that was like life changing. For me, actually just seeing him do that as an amputee, somebody that lost his hands and his legs due to meningitis, being able to do that. And that was one of many stories. And for me, I've got a disability, but those that haven't got disabilities, I know the message that they came away from was anything's possible and we can all do better.
Yeah. Well, you're inspiration, Rich, and keep up the great work and any events that you've got going on. Yeah, no, it was a pleasure to be there. It really was. And any other events you've got coming up, you know, me and the team, especially our next guest, Craig Dearman, he will definitely be there. Craig, how are you?
I'm all right. Yeah. Look, I've run a marathon. That's me done with long distance. So I was more of a sprinter. So I was a jumper, in fact. I wasn't a sprinter. I was a jumper. But yeah, long distance, not for me. Fair play to anybody who runs long distances, Rich. Obviously, you're absolutely fantastic. I don't know how people do it.
Unbelievable.
I know. I have done a 5K. That's probably about my limit now. But honestly, I don't know how people run marathons and get, you know, the world record's nearly 2 hours. It's incredible, absolutely incredible the speed people do. I don't know how they do it, but fair play and well done, Rich. Well done, Chris, for doing the 5K as well. Absolutely fantastic. Saw the pictures and the video, so brilliant stuff. But I'm all good, thanks, Chris. Looking forward to this one.
Yep, so am I. We've also got entertainer Gary Maloney back with us, wearing the new shirt. Gary, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, lads? All good?
All good. We're looking forward to getting your feedback on all of these players. The fireworks are going off already.
Where does the background come from?
38-year-old Gary Maloney.
I'm telling you, mate, 38 forever. Yeah,
he's been 38 for all the time I've known him, yeah. We've also got music legend Jar Wobble in the house with us. Jar, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, busy, which is nice. I wouldn't want to not be busy. But hats off to Richard. I love what he's saying. I run a community thing in South London. Spurs fans, totally inclusive for everybody to come and have a crack. Every Monday and Tuesday, we've had that up and running. Similar idea, Richard, but with music. We have connections with walking football. It was supposedly for old fellas, but we've ended up with everyone coming. We've got women, young people.
Awesome.
Everyone's welcome. So on a Monday, every other Monday, you can come, or every other Tuesday and record with us down there, actually. So that's a thing close to my heart, you know, just getting everyone involved and not having limits set on performance or anything, you know. So all good. Yeah, so I'm happy. Chris, we're off to America next month, so touring, so all good. And I vowed to stay away from Tottenham all summer, but here I am. I can't keep away, you know.
Jar, before we get into it then, do you want to promote any tours and any dates that you've got coming up? How can people get tickets to come and see you?
Oh, no. We've got America. We'll go over America in July. We've got another British tour. So I just Google it. People can find out. We're in Prague next week. Then we've got a festival at Bromsgrove, and we've got a few British festivals. So all over the shop. You can just go on jarwobble.com. Just Google it now, can't you? Go on Google, Jarwobble Gigs. Tells you everything you need to know, you know. Yeah. So shows mainly. The book's out as well. Dark Luminosity. The book got republished this year by Faber's. So that come out a couple of months ago or something. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff's happened at once, you know. But and the only blight in my life ever is Tottenham. It's the only sad thing in my life, you know.
Well, hopefully we're on the up. Hopefully, things are progressing for Ange Postecoglou.
I'm tongue in cheek, but many a true word said in jest as well. Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting one tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Also back with us is channel regular Melvyn, all the way from Malta. Melvyn, how are you?
I'm well. A bit sunburnt, actually. Spent the day in the sun. It's about 36, 37 degrees here, a bit sunny.
Oh, piss off, Melvyn.
Yeah. I'm not happy with that, Chris. Why do you let people say those things? You should moderate this.
You always get one showing off.
Yeah.
Well, I have to mention Malta because of the Malta Cup coming up this summer. So yeah, to throw it in there. But yeah, I'm doing well.
Well, as I said, this one is going to be an interesting one. Craig, I think we're going to go round clockwise. So I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with the players that their contracts are expiring in 2025. So they've got one more year left on their contract. Fraser Forster, he is 36 years old. He has played 15 games in the Premier League for Spurs, 3 in the FA Cup, and 1 in the League Cup, and 2 in the Champions League. Age 36 now. Would you like to keep him, sell him, loan him, or rip up his contract?
Personally, the fact that we've extended Brandon Austin's contract now, I can't see the value in keeping Forster around because to me, they probably see Austin as number 2 perhaps now because, I mean, he's not a youngster anymore. And obviously we've got the likes of Josh Keeley as well, and the other under 23 goalkeeper whose name escapes me. Apologies, but we seem to have a lot of good goalies and Alfie Whiteman as well. For me, Gunter, thank you. So for me, Forster, perhaps try and sell him to a Championship club, but if not, I think just pay him off and rip his contract and say thank you very much and send him on his way for me.
What about you, Rich? Fraser Forster.
Yeah, I think the likelihood that he's going to play is very slim. And we talk about competition within the team. I think Vicario needs somebody that's either pushing him for that starting spot or some kind of competition. I think it's really unhealthy to have a position in a team that's guaranteed without any competition, and I think that's the case at the moment. I say Vicario's not been pushed at all, and I think Forster doesn't actually. He's kind of like the Scott Carson at Man City, not really doing anything. And I think obviously even cup competitions, he's not getting a game. So for me, I don't think he should be around the squad next year. We need to replace him with somebody that is going to add value to the team, and whether that's to really push Vicario and keep Vicario on his toes, or add some of that Premier League experience in some of those areas that Vicario needs to improve on. So utilise that position as getting an experienced keeper in that will add value to the team, as well as to build confidence, build resilience with Vicario, especially in those times where he might make a mistake or two.
Gary, what about you? Because Craig mentioned there about Brandon Austin signing a new contract. Who do you think is the backup now to Vicario?
Well, it certainly won't be Foster. So, I mean, it's like what we said. I think that's what makes a difference this season to last. There was a lot of players not really being tested. There was, they got a little bit complacent and they were relaxed in their positions. And Vicario's been amazing this season. For me, he's been one of the best keepers in the Premier League. But there's not really anyone that's anywhere near his level, really. So we do need to strengthen that area. So for me, yeah, Foster's gone. I mean, just sell him if you can. If not, rip it up. But there's no one there. Vicario is amazing, and the likelihood of him getting injured is very slim. But if he did, who do we use? I'm not comfortable with anyone really replacing him at the moment. So
sorry though, obviously we're going to be in Europe next season, so more games.
Yeah, domestic cups. If he takes them seriously, Europa. So we do probably need someone else there, but definitely not Foster. 100% not him. No way.
Somebody with experience that then could replace Vicario if needed.
Yeah.
Especially if he steps up, obviously, if he steps into that number one position with obviously his national team as well, he'll be playing a lot of games. And if that form does slip, confidence does drop, and you need to rest him at all, then you need somebody that comes in that the level's the same. We always talk about players that come in that replace that player at the same level. And we don't want to have somebody that comes in at the back that's inexperienced.
Yeah, and that's what was happening last season in a lot of positions. There wasn't really anyone, when we got the injuries or sending red cards or match bans, we didn't have anyone to replace them. We're looking better, but the keeper is an issue. I mean, not if Vicario stays fit all season, of course not. But anything could happen. Look when Lloris injured himself. I know he wasn't at his best, but when we lost him, we struggled as well. You know what I mean? So you have to think about it, definitely.
Joel, let's come to you. Where do you stand on Fraser Forster? Because as Richard said there, he's got great European experience and a lot of Premier League experience as well. But who would you think is the backup to Vicario now?
Well, the big issue with Foster, I would have thought, is he's not fantastic with the ball at his feet. And with Ange ball, you need to have a sweeper keeper, I would have thought, And so whether he's kept or not, I would depend on our import. If it seems Ange has really taken a shine to him, it might be a thing where he ends up in a semi coaching role, maybe, it's possible there. But I would have thought all day long he's not the right keeper style-wise. You need to have, surely with Tottenham with a higher line, you need somebody like Vicario who comes sprinting out, that kind of who's confident with the ball at his feet. I think it's hard for a guy with the physique of Foster. He's so big, just those microseconds to change direction when you've got a nippy number 9 steaming in on you, closing you down. That's a calamity Jane waiting to happen, isn't it, really?
So what's your verdict on Forster, Joe?
Let him go with with gratitude and I wouldn't have thought he would start. I wouldn't have thought so. And the fact this boy Austin's got a new contract kind of tells you something, doesn't it? I would have thought, So no, and good luck to Forster. He's not done anything wrong. He should have got more games, when Lloris was off form. To be fair, last couple of seasons ago or whatever, but. No, I think he'll be I think he'll be up the road with thank you and goodbye.
Melvyn, what about you on Fraser Forster? Because we've heard many reports, in the past, stating that Fraser Forster is one of those characters that is great to be around and great to have in the changing room.
for me, because we're in the Europa League and we're not in the Champions League, and I think he has 1 year left, so I would keep him, because you're not going to find anyone happy to stay on the bench, happy to be the understudy of Vicario. He's experienced. He's played Champions League football. And for me, I would play Vicario every single game. I wouldn't play, God forbid he gets injured halfway through the season, but I wouldn't drop Vicario for any game. I think the only game he played last season, Foster, was in the Carabao Cup versus Fulham, I believe. And he didn't play again.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, I would obviously play Vicario every single game and only play Foster if we really, really have to. But in reality, we're going to have a really busy summer, lots of incomings, lots of outgoings. And I don't think it really is the priority because we're in the Europa League. If we were in the Champions League, I think maybe it would have been a different story, because you would need, I don't know, maybe to rest. But because it's the Europa League, I think we can get away with having him for another season.
So I'll just make one comment on that as well, Chris. I think because of the squad experience, I felt that Vicario had a great season, but I felt he made quite a few, especially after the Man City game in the Cup. He made quite a lot of goalkeeping, wrong decisions regarding his positioning or stepping backwards and not being dominant. And I think at that stage,
isn't it?
Yeah, but at that stage, I felt that if we would have had somebody that was pushing him for the position, you would have felt that he would have to increase his performance. I think there was 5 or 6 games where he was really under the spotlight, and it would have been a chance for the manager to either relieve that spotlight by not necessarily dropping him, but giving him a bit of reflection time. And I don't think we had the squad to do that. So when you look at other free agents that's in that keeping position, there might be some real steals that we look at that are so much better than a so-called somebody that's better around the squad, which I think is a bit bullshit, to be honest. I think you need to have somebody that does it on the pitch, not in the changing room. And you could look to somebody like the ex-Man United keeper that hasn't got a club at the moment, David De Gea, somebody like him, coming in to actually add some experience to the squad.
Now you're talking ambition.
Yeah.
Now you're talking ambition.
Well, that's what the kids need to have.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. I get used to in these in a close season, building hopes up and then quickly retreating. The story always changes from we're going to buy big, we're going to show ambition, into safe bets and levy signings. That's the problem.
Joe, let's discuss this now, because it has to be different. It has to be different. When you go through win now managers, and we've had 7 managers since Pochettino, including Pochettino since 2019, it has to be different now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would have thought so, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because it's a very strange situation at Tottenham. They're not in any trouble, I don't think, with the financial fair play laws. We've been incredibly mediocre for 20 years. My generation remembers us regularly winning things. We were the 4th top club for winning trophies when Ennick took over. So we had a tradition now. And now we're in a strange position where, as a brand, the whole thing of the stadium as well as the club, the whole brand is very successful and is earning great money without having to win anything. And you've got a stadium full of people from all over the world paying premium prices, not only for the tickets and the package deals, and they'll soon be paying for the hotels, but they go and spend £1,000 at the shop. Whereas horrible, ghastly old men like me don't go and spend £1,000 at the shop. We've just been there. We were the seed money, so season ticket holders, to allow it to be built, and we come back like ghastly addicts, year in, year out, sticking with it, and now we're not really needed. So it's a funny old position. So I'm not sure. The proof of the pudding's in the eating. We've heard it all before. Let's see what happens. I think Ange is the kind of bloke who but say sod it. So if I got a text saying he's gone, out the blue in September, I wouldn't be surprised, And Ange, it wouldn't surprise. It would not be the biggest surprise in the world, So yes, you're right. Now surely they have to show some ambition. You know,
the reason
what, John?
for me, I think. Sorry, Chris, go on.
I was just going to say, I think so far since Ange Postecoglou has been appointed, and shoot me down if you think I'm wrong here, but I think he's been given everything that he has wanted so far. So it is going to be a very, very interesting transfer window, because we all know as fans how much work there is to do, a number of players still to get out the door, a number of players to bring in of real quality, and like you say, Jar, show ambition, to try and be successful, move the club on, progress, try and win a trophy or two. But everything that Ange has wanted so far, I think he's been given.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the reason it might be a bit different this summer to what we've been used to is Ange has clearly said he's not necessarily after big star names. Obviously, we want the statement signing. We've spoken about Eze. We've spoken about a couple of others. But just because you see what on paper might look like underwhelming players coming in, I'm quietly confident that Ange would have had this final say on all those players, and those are the players he wants. So look, sometimes you might have a top target, and that top target just don't want to come to your club for whatever reason. That's not Daniel Levy's fault. That's not Ange's fault. That's just the player not wanting to come. It's not necessarily about the deal not getting done or us not paying so much. But from what I'm hearing, he doesn't necessarily want a 60, 70 million pound players. You're probably shopping in the 30, 40 million pound player category for Ange. And, he's going to, I'm sure, go into the Asian market as well, because he's used the Asian market before when he was at Celtic. So I think they're more likely to back him fully. But as you say, Chris, I think he's pretty much got everyone he's wanted so far as we know.
Yeah. Yeah. And every player, it appears, wants to join us over the likes of Bayern Munich and other big clubs of Europe, which is quite incredible, really. Just before we move on to the next player, Craig, I just want to get all of your opinions on the following. The club only a couple of hours ago announced that Chris Davis, our senior assistant coach, has left the club to take the role of manager at Birmingham City. Ange Postecoglou said Chris is an outstanding individual. He's done some fantastic work with us in the last season. I'd like to thank him for all of his hard work, and we wish him all the best. I think some of us expected some backroom changes, but probably not so soon.
Oh, you're still there, Chris? You
you
disappeared there.
Disappeared.
I was going to say, if
just swap places.
Yeah, he's in
Craig,
the
what do
middle
you?
of the front now with Richard and I know he's back on the.
I've moved him back.
Yeah. Oh, he's back on the. He's on the left.
Musical chairs, is it?
Craig, did you hear that statement that I read out?
I heard the statement. I didn't hear the question.
I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on Chris Davis leaving, and who do you think will come in now to work with Ange?
Well, it's interesting because wasn't he linked, or was he offered? Was it the Swansea or Cardiff job earlier in the season, and obviously didn't go? Swansea, thank you. But obviously he's taken the managerial role. Look, he's been offered a manager's role, so he's obviously at that stage in his career where he feels like he's ready to go into management. So I don't think you can read anything into it. I just think it's good luck to him. So thank you very much for all his hard work, and hope he does very well. As for who comes in, I haven't got a clue, to be honest. I really don't know. Are they going to be promoting from within? Are they going to be having a reshuffle behind the scenes? Not sure.
Maybe
promote Ryan.
Understudy.
Or Ryan Mason, I don't know. Does he?
Yeah. Oh God, no.
Makes Ryan Mason going to be assistant manager?
What about if they got some young geezer who knew how to defend corners? That'd be radical.
No, that's too easy. That's too easy.
Sorry,
Rick, what do you make?
But I mean, the thing with this bloke today,
Rick, what do you make of this departure?
The difference with Birmingham City and Swansea. I mean, Birmingham have got new owners, haven't they? They went down. They've gone down now, haven't they, to Division 1. So you think you just think you've got a bit of money to spend. You might think you'll never have an opportunity as a manager taking over a club like Birmingham City down to Division 1 with some money behind you. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and they've probably made promises about him having his own staff about. There's one thing about Ange I like. He doesn't need his hand held. You know, when he came in, I got the impression he was happy just to be a man and come in on his own and manage. Whereas a lot of these other people, they've got to bring in all their team of people and their fitness coach, like, you know, and that to me says what? Don't you really trust in your own methods? You know, surely your method can be taken and transposed anywhere to some extent. And there's a kind of, you know, so that doesn't bother me today. I've seen it's bother a few people. It don't really bother me. You know, I think Andrew know these people, they've got loads of contacts in football. He'll won't miss a beat, I'm sure. You know, we'll get the right person in, the kind of coach he wants, you know.
Rich, do you want to give your...
Yeah, no, I could echo the boys, Craig, prior to that as well. I think obviously a position that he will be taking will be a managerial position with new American ownership. So great opportunity that maybe would never come round again. I think also when you look at, obviously, Ange as a manager, he'll already have somebody lined up for that position, surely, as well as on the pitch, off the pitch. Managers have options and opportunities for the people to either step up or come in, and I'm sure that will be the case. I always feel as well sometimes, especially when you look at the dynamic of the club, that Ange is building off the pitch as well as on the pitch, and I think that's as important as well. And I think
I get the impression he's managing, and he's managing up, and he's managing sideways. He's managing the whole culture in the way Klopp had to do it.
Yeah, and I think the behaviours of the whole team, like we've talked about previously, are changing. Some of them have taken some real time, but I think with this departure, there's an opportunity, and that's what you need to take it. Whether it's a positive opportunity or not, it's a great opportunity for the club to develop in a different area.
Yeah. Gary, let's get your thoughts on the departure of Chris Davis. And as Jar mentioned there, do you think there's any chance of bringing in a set-piece coach? And do you see any other changes off the pitch happening in the next couple of months?
Well, I was the same. I saw it go across the bottom on Sky today, and I was a bit like, you know, I was sort of paying more attention to the England players that weren't, you know, who wasn't the stuff I saw, and I was like, fair enough. It's an opportunity. He's taking it. Look, we know where we are with corners and set pieces. I mean, we need someone to come in. I mean, it's, you know, Jade touched on it earlier with Vicario as well. That's a massive issue as well from corner set pieces. You know, Richard mentioned it. He needs to command the box more, but we need to bring someone in, because when they're saying they've worked on them, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's so frustrating. I don't know, as a Tottenham fan, whether I'm at the game or I'm watching at home, I probably get more nervous from a free kick in a corner than what I do a penalty.
Yeah,
I think we've got more chance of saving the penalty than what we do from a corner or set piece. It's that I don't know any other fan of any other team who dreads corners and set pieces that much. And you think it would just be a simple thing to just try and tackle and try and get right. But yeah, we need to. That's where we really need
Every time the ball comes in a box from a corner, it's like Dad's army. It's
just like panic, isn't it? I'm just so nervous. Panic.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But I mean, you guys said about it earlier. I mean, that is the good thing about Ange. No doubt he will be working on that and stuff. And yes, you know, that is the thing about Ange I did love. You know, I watched I don't know what it was. I watched something on Ange the other day, which was really good. What was it? Prime. It was on Prime. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that on Prime with Ange Postecoglou, but it was brilliant. We're right back to the beginning. But the thing I'll always remember, when Conte came in, he brought like a busload of people, like a full entourage, and Ange just kind of walks in on his own and he's getting it done. I think Ange has been great. There have been a couple of things to do with regards to the Tottenham and Man City game. Didn't quite agree with everything he said and come out in post interviews and stuff. But apart from that, it's the only I got one more criticism of him: the Tottenham Fulham game in the Carabao Cup and all the changes. Apart from that, he's been spot on for me, Ange.
I've got to say something there, Gary. Mate, you're right.
Go on.
He bought into the conversation with the media like a mug punter, And we were just trying to make I think I was like a lot of Spurs fans. I was at the game that night. I actually wanted us to win to start with. I wanted us to win. But we made the best of what was a bit of a disappointing season. It felt a bit disappointing just for a while after the great start. And I thought with Ange, mate, you have to take some responsibility for blowing the season, with how you perform. Because I was at the League Cup game as well. You can't turn around and, I've never felt so horrible in all my life at a football game. You think, stroll on. It's football. Yeah. Any teams with rival would get I know loads of teams who got it. But, of course, Tottenham are a great team to pick on. So you had a load of sanctimonious pieces like that guy. Who's the guy, the fat-faced guy? He's a West Ham fan. He's normally pretty. Is it Samuels? Is it Martin Samuels?
I thought you meant James Colton.
Yeah, but anyway, it could be, yeah. But he's actually quite a good writer. But he had a go. I can't remember the guy's name. He had a go at the loads of sanctimonious pieces. Spurs fans they're so horrible. And you think any Spurs, any football clubs with a close rival, we were making the best of an awkward night ourselves.
Any other club would have done the same, Jade. Any other club would have done the same.
And he shouldn't have bought into that. That was like, mate. Put a sock in it, man. For God's sake, you just don't need to say. Sometimes you don't need to say anything to the media.
And the thing is, you're right. He needs to take some of the responsibility for that because we was only in that position because of him and the players. So you can't. It's a bit.
You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. But it's not a terrible crime. It's just what it is. Basically. Until this geezer, the early indications are good that he's getting what he wants, Can I say, if we've got to go through every player, let's just get to talking about Richarlison. That's who we all want to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're 32 minutes in. We've done one player so far.
We've done everything. We've done the third choice.
We better speed it.
Third choice keeper. We're going to be here till
we're having a moment about hands.
We all know Holberg, Richarlison, maybe Kulusevski. We know the ones.
Hold on. We're getting there.
Porro, we don't.
We're getting there.
Porro, we're going to keep them.
We should put a 30-second limit on everyone's answers, Chris.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
30 seconds on everyone's answers.
Melvin's been looking confused since Jar mentioned Dad's Army. So, Melvin. Melvin, do you want to just give us your thoughts on Chris Davis leaving, and then we'll crack some of these names.
Yeah, I just think we won't really know the full impact of what we're missing until next season. We don't know what he does behind the scenes. We don't know the full impact until the next person comes in. So, as a fan, I'm not at the training ground. I don't really know what he does day to day. So he's carrying Ange's message in a way, his philosophy. So I think if you bring someone else in, it might be better, it might be worse. But at the end of the day, it's Ange's philosophy. So we wish him luck, and maybe we meet him in a cup competition. Hopefully, you never know.
Yeah.
No,
Craig, let's come.
Ange is an ideologue. And it's like Karl Marx. No one knows who Karl Marx's number 2 was, right? You just remember Karl Marx. Ange is the ideal. He's the guy with a philosophy. So he's the man,
Yeah.
And whoever comes in just follows them orders, or they're out. So I don't think there's any worries there. Sorry, Chris. I'm starting to liven up a bit, which is bad news. Over to you, mate.
That's all right. I was going to say, I hope you lot have got nothing to do for the next couple of hours.
No,
Craig, let's come to you. Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, his contract is expiring in 2025. He has now spent 4 seasons at the club. Last season, he was involved in 36 of the 38 Premier League games, 28 from the sub-bench. He also played in the League Cup game against Fulham. He also featured in both FA Cup games that we played. He is now 28. Surely, we've got to sell Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Surely he wants to leave in this transfer window.
Yeah, right. 30-second answer at most. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg has been a good servant to the club. I think this season, to be honest, he's probably put in his best performances when he's come off the bench. I don't think he's been as good as when he started. for me, he perhaps wanted to leave at the beginning of the season just gone, but we couldn't get rid of him. For me, it's time to move him on. As I say, he's been a really good servant for the club, but I think he's one there's certainly value left in his contract, and I think we should try and sell him.
Yeah, I agree. Richard?
Yeah, same. When you look at obviously amount of games he's played, very consistent for the last 3 or 4 seasons. No goal contributions this year. I think when he's come off the bench, like Craig says, he has done a job, but has he added the kind of punch that maybe he's had in other seasons? No, I don't think so. I think there's players such as him that haven't really come off the bench and added a different dynamic to the play at all. I think he's still got value as a player. Was it 28 years old? He's still got value as a player, and I think it would be time now to move him on and cash in.
Gary, Højbjerg, sell, keep, loan, or rip up?
Sell. Hardly any technical ability. Never thought he was that great. A lot of the time when he's come on, we've lost games, thrown him away. I've seen him fall over his own feet. Sell.
It's interesting. Reese writes here, does Antonio Conte want him at Napoli? There have been reports about that, so that is going to be an interesting one. Jar Højbjerg, I think I know your answer.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, actually, I've argued with my younger boy a lot, you know, he and a couple of mates, apps like Gary, they absolutely can't stand him. I like him, but he's a good player. But look, he's gone. He's gone. He's going to be in. And good luck to the geezer. I quite like him. He's gone. You know, he's not, doesn't fit the bill. And even last season when he come on and shored the game up and done well, and we wanted him to start. Then when he started like a weight of Wolves, he makes a mistake. You know, it was down. He didn't go with a runner, did he? With a Wolves game, he gave the ball away a couple of times at the end of the game. So I quite liked him as a player, and he always looks great when he's playing in internationals. But no, he's gone anyway. It's academic. The question's academic, really. He's gone. He'd be in Italy.
Melvyn?
For me, sell. I'm just going to say one thing about Højbjerg. My favorite memory of him was the goal he scored in Marseille, which meant we topped the group in the Champions League. And then we got, because of that, we drew AC Milan, which was important to me. So for me, sell. We can get maybe the transfer fee we paid for him, maybe believe we can get it back or something close to that, which is money we can, put back into the squad.
He's
next up, and I think this is going to be an easy one.
He's one of the few saleable assets. He's eminently sellable, the guy, isn't he? You know, unlike our Ndombele, our other midfielder. You know,
that's exactly where I'm going next, Jar. That is exactly where I'm going. Tanguy Ndombele, our record signing, 27 years old. He's just won another league winners medal in Turkey with Galatasaray. 5 seasons at Spurs, not one appearance in the Premier League in the last 2 seasons. His last appearance for us was in the 21-22 season. I am at the point now where, me personally, if it was up to me, I'd rip up the contract because he's out of contract in a year's time anyway, 2025. It seems like not a lot of clubs are interested or would even pay Spurs a small fee. It's got that bad. Craig?
Yeah, quick one, easy one, this one. Has such high hopes for Ndombele like everybody else, but it's just not going to happen. It's never going to happen. I think they give it a few weeks to see if anybody can come in for a loan. If not, rip the contract up.
Richard?
Yeah. I don't even want to waste any breath on that, really, to be honest. I think it's really disappointing. Doesn't apply himself at training or at the clubs he's been out and at loan to, so has not shown anything. The manager obviously doesn't want him around the squad, so I would say, rip the contract up for sure.
It's a shame, this one, Gary, isn't it? Because everyone in 2019, every Spurs fan wanted Spurs to sign Tanguy Ndombele, and how it's turned out is disgraceful, really.
It's so bad, and it's just typical that it would happen to us, to Tottenham. But you can all watch these YouTube reels. We all did, and there was glimpses where he did score a few good goals and stuff. But Chris, you know as well as me, you know, I remember seeing him in the stadium. He was standing there with the crowds, he's eating chocolate bars. He's going McDonald's, like he's eating burgers. It's just his fitness levels and it's just whole attitude around the Premier League. He's probably best off getting a manager job in the local Tottenham McDonald's. He'll probably excel there because as a footballer, I just don't get it. You know, I don't get it. But look, we're not lucky enough to be in that position, and we can all be on this show and say if we was, we'd do this and do that. But I really don't know what goes on in that guy's head. But, you know, just get rid of him. Forget about it. It's done, isn't it? It's just a shame. Probably one of the biggest disappointments of the last few years for me. Really, really big disappointment. But it is what it is. We move on, innit?
I knew you'd be brutal, Gary. Jar, are you going to be that brutal about Tongi Ndombele?
Yeah,
all I say is the geezer appears to me to be even fatter than me, and I'm a 65-year-old mate. He's a professional athlete, the geezer, supposedly.
I think he was more brutal than
although
me,
I run
Chris.
6K today. I did do 6K on the cross trainer. So, you know, did a bit, yeah. But, no, the geezer, he's obviously not... Well, I like it gets...
I love that.
I can keep my back straighter when I run. Do you know what I mean? I love it. With the old music on and everything, you know. But, no, joking apart, he doesn't look like an athlete. I know we had that bloke we signed from Nottingham Forest. Maybe he was a bit chubby. Who was the bloke? Do you remember? It was the bloke we had. He was not Gascoigne was chubby but could play, was fit. You get people accuse them of looking overweight, but they can cover the yards and they're still fit. But Ndombele to me just doesn't really look fit to me at all, you know.
Oh,
and then you think and that obviously was an issue because Mourinho had him out, you know, in the park, didn't he? At the time of COVID, obviously.
Yeah, I remember.
Trying to get him up to speed. So no, it's just let's move on. Sorry, mate. It's just it was a disastrous signing, you know.
Yeah, I thought this one would be a quick one. Melvyn, Tongi Ndombele.
Yeah, 200 grand a week we're paying him. That's how much we can get off the wage bill. So for me, one of the biggest disappointments in a transfer, I think, in Spurs history. I don't think I can name one worse. And the guy's ability is insane, and you know it's a shame because he's living the dream. You know, he can play in the Premier League, he can play for a massive club. He could have played for France if he wanted to.
Well, do you remember he crucified City? Do you remember the City midfield when he was it Lille? He was the guy. Unbelievable.
If I ever met him in person and I could sit down with him, I would say, I don't know if you can swear, but you're an effing idiot. I would say to him. I mean, you had it in your hands and you ruined it. I know he won 2 medals at Napoli, sitting on the bench and got in Turkey. But for what? He's just sat on the bench. He didn't do anything. He didn't contribute.
He's hardly played.
I mean, he ruined it. Yeah. He had a massive opportunity and he ruined it.
Just to let everybody know, there is other fast food retailers as well as McDonald's. Gary's on a bit of a retainer, I reckon.
What's that?
Yeah.
I think the player you were thinking of was Andy Reid.
That's it, Andy Reid. That's the one. Yeah.
I don't remember.
And everyone used to say he looked overweight, but he was a good player, and he always didn't look unfit to me, you know.
Let's move on to Giovanni Lo Celso. I'm going to start this off. I would sell Giovanni Lo Celso. I think that he has had a long time at the club, 7 seasons actually at the club. 28 years old. Premier League appearances this season, 22, 18 as a sub, 2 goals. Craig, Lo Celso?
Yeah, excuse me, 100% agree. I think we just sell him. Was it Betis? They're interested in him. I just think we need to get that deal done. Again, I had fairly high hopes for Lo Celso. I remember I would have rather had, Bruno Fernandes at the time, because it was either him or Lo Celso. And of course, we got Lo Celso, and well, we know how that went, didn't we? So for me, he's just never really grasped grasped the chances he's been given, and he has been given chances. He's a bit injury prone as well. So for me, I think there's still value. I think we can get some money for him. I think we need to move him on.
Richard, when you think Tanguy Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, £100 million on both of them players, and you think what we've actually had out of the pair of them, I know Lo Celso has had a lot of injury issues, but for you, is it time for him to go now?
Yeah, for sure. And that shows, obviously, recruitment at that stage wasn't brilliant. Both those players, very poor, and I'm just not seeing, even Lo Celso, I'm not seeing that appetite. Like he's obviously passionate about playing for his home country, but he's never showed that for the Spurs, especially coming on and like playing for the shirt. I've never seen that, and he showed flashes obviously in games. I was at the City game away where he showed some flashes last season, but I can think of one or two games where he's actually come on and had an impact.
Middlesbrough in the FA Cup, Richard.
Yeah.
You could count them on the fingers of one hand and have a finger or two over, mate.
Yeah, and that's a real problem. And I think, do you know, when you talk about professionals, professional athletes, professional people, that they need to buy into the philosophy of the club, not just come and take the money and sit on the bench. Those kind of like bench warmers, you need to get rid of earlier. You can't have them around the club. It brings the club down, the morale down, the performances down. We need to have hungry players for the team. Ange wants those hungry players. The two players that we've just spoke about definitely aren't in that category, and that's why he needs to be sold. Sure.
That's right. You compare them to all these young English players in the England squad. This new crop, you know, young, dynamic, you know, really, really mobile. I mean, these are the kind of players we need, you know.
Jar, with Lo Celso, would you try and sell him?
Oh yeah. Again, you should get money for him. You're not going to get, you're not going to get top money. It's like Monopoly. It'd be old Kent Road, wouldn't he? I suppose, as opposed to Mayfair. If you know, basically. You know,
probably get 20 quid and some pork scratchings for him.
You know, 8 million. You know, he'd go to Spain, I suppose. And what, as Richard just, the golden thing is when he played for Argentina, he looks like he really has some fight in him. But even then, he missed the final. He's got a lot of injury issues. So no, I think he always looks great in pre-season, by the way. You know, but in competitive games, like I said, you could count the effective games on the fingers of one hand and have fingers over. So no, sell him, get rid. And what Richard says is absolutely right. You're either going to get serious now or not. You know, and get serious. You get the right.
I think
the right mindset there with players. You know.
You just give me a great idea for a future episode, Jar. So we'll try and match the player up with the Monopoly property. That'd be a future episode.
He's old Kent Road to me. Yeah.
All right. Gary, Lo Celso?
Yeah, selling, not done enough. I mean, you know, I thank him when Mourinho brought him on as a sub and he scored within like 30 seconds against City, I think it was. That was amazing. I was jumping up and going mad, but, you know, very few and far between and injured a lot. Not great. And I think we just got to get rid of all these sort of players now. You know, we've always been that team that get a bit sentimental and hold on to these players that ain't that great. If we're going to be serious and we're going to try and really go for trophies, you know, or get in the top four and stay in there, then these sort of players they got to go. It is what it is. You know what I mean? One or two games here and there, little glimpses. It's not enough. It's not enough.
Chris, can I just say something about injuries as well? Sometimes we sugarcoat some of the players because they do get injured. Some of them are just too lightweight. Look, come on, man. Look, you're playing in the Premier League. You need to give a shift, but also put it out there, put it about. I think there's too many players that we've had in the past get a slight injury and they're out for 6 months, 12 games.
Who are you talking about?
It's bullshit. Even now the Sessegnon thing. Like I've seen him play and go, how have you come off injured? And I'm going, look, as a professional athlete, you look after yourself on and off the pitch, or in and out the pool, or off the track, or whatever. I know there's things you can do to make yourself robust.
Agreed.
If you're getting injured season after season, it's your own fault. It's not like, yes, there's people that are very unlucky, but you bounce back.
You're right, Richard. Richard is 100% spot on. I say the same thing at home all of the time.
It really just
you know, I deal with chronic injuries all the time. Yes, I'm not a footballer, I'm not an athlete, but there is things that you can do for yourself. And I'm telling you, some of these players, I do question, are they actually at a stage where they can't play, or they're choosing not to play? Because let's face it, they're still getting paid 100, 150, 200 grand a week. You know, and this is why these sort of players, we have to get out, because it's like what Richard just said. Some of these players could have been back weeks, if not months before. I don't buy it at all. I really don't.
No, I don't. I agree with both of you. There's times you just think, no, this cannot be.
If you're in a winning team, you know you're going to be out for a game, and you're going to lose your place. You're going to do everything to get back fit. Everything.
Well,
whether that's Ronaldo £1 million kind of recovery strategy. You do everything to do it.
Most of the top players, as the season goes on, are playing through pain, aren't they? Most of them in most games.
Every athlete's got something.
That's what it's all about. And, you know, being professional, even as a musician, the top musicians, I've got great boys around me, incredible fellas around, tough northern blokes around me, great players. And there's never a complaint about anything. They are focused on the job. They are not distracted by anything. They play for their pride every bloody night. Yeah. You know,
sure.
and they play.
You know what? You hit the nail on the head there. When you're
everything off stage is as important as everything on stage. And
do you know what I think it is though? When you're a club and you're going to win the Premier League, you're still in competitions. Every single player wants a piece of that pie. When you're Tottenham Hotspur and you're going out of the Carabao Cup straight away against Fulham because you made 11 changes, we're out the FA Cup and we've got no hope of winning the Premier League. That's why some players are playing on injuries, mate. That's it. Because what have they got to come back for?
It does make you wonder, though, what sort of people and Ndombele's got around him, doesn't it? Because, you know, surely his friends and family can see that he. Do you know? Well, yeah. You have to think about it. But the people that he's hanging out with, do you not think if they're friends, do they turn around and say to him, "Mate, you've got all the ability in the world. You've got the world at your feet, literally. You could have been one of the best players in the Premier League for years." Yeah. You know, has anybody actually said, I'm sure there. Yeah.
But it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. There's so many people, you get in the music game, people that have got it at their fingertips and screw it up. And they haven't even got to go through the physical torture that professional sportsmen have to go through. But it's a same psychological process. The whole thing's laid out in front of them. Success. All they've got to do is take it. But
we don't listen. We've got Richard on the panel, right? I don't need to say. Does anyone need to tell you, Richard, to get yourself fit or get yourself ready? You have to jump a lot more hurdles than the average Premier League player, mate. And there's no one having to push you or tell you what to do, mate. You're doing everything you do. All the awards, all the medals you've won is because you've got the self-determination and you've done it. And let's be honest with it. You've got something to go for and you go for it. And you've got fire in your belly. Too many of these players that we got on the books do not have any fire in their belly. Ndombele's probably got 3 Big Macs and 2 quarter pounders.
And it's been that way. It's now been that way for years. And every year it's like that compounds. The next year becomes even worse. Worse. And so I know it ups what Conte said last year. I know Conte had his, obviously wasn't without his faults, although his hair miraculously grew back. I've got to give him that. but what he said after that Southampton draw, you can't argue with it. It's the story of Tottenham. And I want to see that change before I peg it. That's what I said win the league once. So everything you say is music to my ears. The culture's got to change.
Melvyn, Celso?
Yeah, you have to sell. Listen, I mean, he's loved in Spain. The guys, I mean, there's teams that are after him. And there's still a value there. I mean, I've said this many times about Lo Celso. I'm pretty convinced he uses Tottenham to stay fit for Argentina. You know, he only plays for Argentina. He keeps coming to us just to stay fit, to use the facilities in the gym and all of that.
Yeah.
But he's had some good moments, but I don't think his body is strong enough for the Premier League. I mean, technically, we bought him to replace Eriksen or to be an understudy to him, and he's not been anywhere near. And for the money we paid for him, and he played well for Royal Betis. When we bought him, he had close to 20 goals and assists for the season. He was scoring in the Europa League. I remember him playing really well and really nice football. But when he came to us, I think the Premier League is so fast and so tough.
Yeah.
And obviously he came to us and we lost Pochettino and we went through quite a bit of hard time. Obviously, we all know we changed a couple of managers and just things don't work out. And I think this season, maybe that's why he hasn't played so well, because he wasn't in Postecoglou's plans, where I felt at the end of the season he could have played more, but I don't want to get into that. If he's not in the manager's plans, he's not in the manager's plans.
Yeah.
End of the story. And we move on. We see what money we can get for him and then invest in the squad.
Next up is Captain Heung-min Son.
I want to talk about Bissouma.
We're getting there, Joel. We're getting there. Next up is Captain Heung-min Son. His contract runs out in 2025, but it is fully expected that Spurs will trigger another 12 months on his contract. He has made 303 Premier League appearances for us in the 9 seasons that he has been at the club. 120 Premier League goals, 62 assists. Of course, won the Golden Boot in the 21-22 season. He turns 32 in July. Craig, I'm obviously going to say keep. You?
Yeah, I haven't got much else to say other than keep. 100%, you've got to keep Heung-min Son. I think the club will extend his contract.
Yep.
I think he's great around the squad. If he wasn't contributing and somebody's great around the squad, then I think there's an argument to say, well, you can't just pay somebody to be good around the squad. But Heung-min Son is clearly still contributing a huge amount. And even though he's getting on in years in footballing terms, I still think he's got a season or two left in him. So for me, keep.
Absolutely. Richard?
Yeah, same. And I think if the Eze transfer comes to fruition, that'd be the obviously long-term replacement. I rate Eze massively. And I see obviously what he does on and off the ball. Obviously young, pacey, and I think that would be a great addition and also support the workload that Sonny does actually deliver within the team as well. I think Sonny's been a great servant last season. I think he just looked like with the captaincy, he looked like he was not carrying an injury like this previous seasons. I don't know. He didn't look as sharp. Yes, we obviously kind of saw that in the Man City game towards the end of the season, and just kind of blew a little bit hot and cold. And our expectations of Sonny are this world-class player, and I think some of the fans got onto his back a little bit. But he's still a great player. We still will get world-class moments from Sonny, but I just think he's performance-wise, at that level, it's not really hit that over the definitely not last season.
Gary, let's come to you on Heung-min Son. I'll tell you what, I'll be absolutely gutted when Heung-min Son does leave the football club. And I'll be even more gutted if he is yet another superstar that leaves our football club having not won anything. What have you made of Heung-min Son? And keep, sell, loan, or rip up the contract?
Oh God, keep. He's part of Tottenham Hotspur, isn't he? I mean, listen, we touched on injuries a little while ago. I'll just take you back to Aston Villa. First few minutes, breaks his arm or his shoulder, plays the whole game, scores a few goals. Go back to all the talk about Harry Kane. He didn't play the first game since against City. What does Son do? Come out, sign a new contract. I mean, he's just Tottenham through and through. And I do genuinely believe whether it's more hope or belief, but I do genuinely believe he will win something with Tottenham as the captain. And I think it was probably meant to be. And I think, you know, actions speak louder than words. And when all that was going on with Harry Kane, he didn't think twice about extending his contract. And again, I go back to the video game. You know, we're talking about injuries and stuff like that. I mean, Son will do anything to put a shirt on and play for Tottenham Hotspur. And we need more players like him.
And also 17 goals last season as well. So you ought to think, obviously, a great to say that he did was a little bit hot and cold. I think obviously still put those performances in for the team.
Yeah. Ja, Heung-min Son.
Sorry, he's got to go. End of. No, I'm joking. He's not going to go anywhere. He's going to stay. But I did feel towards the end of last season, the geezer never complains. He plays a lot of football, puts a lot of air miles in. It doesn't do him favours to start every bloody game. He doesn't have to start every game. And you're going to get better out of him if you start using him as an impact sub in some games.
Look at Leicester.
Exactly. Fantastically brave, you know, player, and he'll be there. But I'd love to see him be benched at times. Just rest him, help him a little bit. He's 32. He's not 22, you know. Needs a bit of help, but he's a really.
He's not my age, Chris, is he?
You're about 18. How old are you?
22.
There you go. You're all right. Then you're doing well.
He's had a bad paper around that boy, I tell you.
Do we have to add any years onto that, though?
Double it.
Ever since we've all known Gary Jar, he's been 38, and he's still 38 now.
I'm still 38.
Yeah.
I'll be 38 in 10 years when Son's the manager.
Melvyn, Heung-min Son.
As well. Chris, can I say something?
Go on.
It's Melvyn geezer's fairly quiet, but when he talks,
he can't get a word in.
He talks sense, I notice. I have to say, everything he said that is sensible. It's more sensible than me, I must admit.
Can you tell my girlfriend that? Anyways, Son, I think obviously he's a great player for us, but I feel Son needs to be, in a way, protected more. I think he needs to be rested more. I think at the age that he's at, he lost a bit of pace. He's not the same Heung-min Son, and I think we're starting to see not his decline. I say he's more maturing into the player that he is currently, and I think it's really important we have really good, not cover, maybe off the bench if Timo is coming off the bench, or if we have another winger, or if he's going to play striker. I feel he needs to be protected more because he's very important for Asia. He's very important for us. He's been undroppable for the past 4 or 5 years. He's played a lot of football, and you can see certain players that play every single game, their body starts to degrade quicker. You look at Luka Modric, the way he took care of his body, and he's still playing at 37, 38. And you start to think Heung-min Son's played a lot of games for us. And he's had injuries. He's broken his cheekbone. He's broken his arm. You know, he'll go. You know, look at last season. He was playing with an injury, and he had to have surgery to fix it. And you could tell that he wasn't quite 100%. So with Son, for me, listen, I love the player. I really love Son. But we need to be careful with him because we cannot be extra reliant on him at times, because I feel that if he's having an off day, it's like Spurs have an off day. It's like if he cannot score, we're not going to score. And I don't want to be the team that he's not undroppable. If he's not in form, he needs to have a rest, and someone else needs to have a go. You know, we need to blood someone in that side, because he's not going to be playing there for the next 4 or 5 years. Yes, 1 year, 2 years, he'll still be playing there. But I feel that he's coming at the end of his career with us. And hopefully we do win something with him, because you need to have an experienced player. I think the squad is young. And Sonny now is an experienced head. He's experienced in the Champions League. He's an experienced captain with South Korea. So for him to have the captaincy, we saw massive leadership. I mean, Hugo Lloris was a good captain, but I think Sonny was an even better captain. I'm proud to have him as our captain, and I look forward to having him be our captain next season.
I think you also need to look at obviously styles of play as well. Obviously, with the Ange ball, he's doing a lot of pressing off the ball as well. And I think with previous managers just sitting back and he was saved within the game. I think his energy levels definitely drop within the games with Ange's kind of pressing style. And I think previously, obviously, with that kind of hitting teams on the break, we could use Sonny's pace.
Yeah,
and
I never really thought of that, but that's a good point. We used to do that a lot. Yeah.
Look at that when Kane was injured in the Champions League. Son, the lone striker, was incredible. The movement in the channels and all that. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think obviously if you're as a player, however fit you are, if you're
start this one off, I'd actually sell Ben Davies. He's 31. He spent 10 seasons at the club at Spurs. Craig, Ben Davies, keep, sell, loan, or rip up the contract?
I think he's been a great servant to the club, Ben Davies. But personally, I would sell him, or try and sell him at least. It's if Ben Davies wants to go, of course. But for me, I think it's about time for him to go and bring somebody else through the academy, or just try and get another left back or somebody that can play left back, centre back. I saw we were linked with a Japanese guy whose name escapes me today that can play left centre back and left back. Hirohito, I think his name is.
That's same name as Emperor Hirohito. Yeah. Right.
But yeah. So for me, Ben Davies, so thank you very much. But I think we send him on his way.
Yeah. Richard, Ben Davies, I think he's been a great servant to the club, but can you see him fitting in anywhere in the starting 11? Because I don't think he can play that inverted left-back role. And when you think about the cover now at centre-back, it's unlikely that he's going to feature there.
No, definitely not. And you look at how many games he played last year. Didn't play a massive amount of games. Came off the bench a little bit. And where, like you say, where does he fit in that starting 11? I think that's you need to have that starting 11 and then somebody that's able to do a job at that same kind of level. And having like a Ben Davies around the squad that can maybe be dynamic and play 2 or 3 different positions is fine. But I don't see how he's going to improve the squad. So I would sell him, and he'd probably go to a team like a Cardiff or Swansea in the Championship, I think.
Gary, what do you think Ange Postecoglou will do with Ben Davies? Do you think he will be a Spurs player next year? And what would you like to see happen?
I think he'll be sold. I mean, I'm a bit on the fence with Ben Davies. He's, I never disliked Ben Davies. I did feel there's a bit more out of him than some of the other players that we've touched on. But I do feel he just doesn't have the pace. He doesn't have the pace. And if we want to be serious and we want to, progress and bring the team forward, as much as I just like him as a person, I quite liked him as a player as well. And I did feel a lot of time when Ben Davies came on in the game, he shored it up a little more. I felt a little bit more confident with him than what I did say with Højbjerg and stuff. But I think he's got to go because he's not the fastest either, and I just don't think he fits in the team. But I would wish him well, and he's a player when he does leave Tottenham. I'm not going to have any real, dislike towards like some of them. I feel he's been all right for Tottenham, just all right. So yeah.
Joe, I'm going to move on to another player, Sergio Reguilón, 27 years old, 4 seasons at Spurs now. Of course, he's had a couple of loan spells this season at Manchester United playing a total of 25 Premier League games during the 2023-2024 campaign. Surely it's time for Sergio Reguilón now to go out the door because, of course, his contract is expiring this time next year.
Yeah, I would have thought so. He seems very popular at Brentford. And he seemed pretty popular when he done a little spell with Man United as well, But I think he's gonna go, isn't he? Ange didn't seem to fancy him at all last year. I always found him a little bit dubious in regard to actually defending. Not great on the defensive part of the game. not bad coming forward, but yeah, to cut to the chase, if he stayed, I'd be really surprised. I would have thought we will further strengthen on the left, maybe with this Hirohito geezer or whatever. You need in the Premier League, if you're looking to reach that level of City and Arsenal, he's not the guy. You know, he's Brentford's probably a good level for him, but he'd more likely end up back in Spain. Yet again, as Melvyn said, you know, you got to factor in what a tough league the Premier League is. You know.
Melvyn, let's come to you. Let's talk about Joe Rodon, because he's been at the club now for 3 seasons. He spent this season on loan at Leeds United, had a successful year there. Today, Spurs have announced that they've actually extended his contract at the club. So he's now his contract will now run until 2026. The reason why they've done that is that they do want to cash in on him because he's not part of Ange Postecoglou's plan. So it does look like he's going to be sold. What have you made of Joe Rodon's time at Spurs? Do you think it's been quite unfair that he didn't get opportunities, or do you just think he wasn't good enough?
I think a bit of both. I think when he played, I think he made his debut against Chelsea, if I remember. And he didn't play half bad. We still lost, but he's an old-fashioned defender. He's solid, but I just think for the Premier League, maybe, and especially at Tottenham, I don't think he's good enough. He's a good defender, and he's not the level of Tottenham. Maybe, I don't know, I don't want to offend any teams, but maybe clubs like West Ham, Burnley, Luton, maybe more. Yeah, he's more that level. Even the club he's with now, Leeds. He probably, if they came up, they would have immediately bought him because you could see he plays for the shirt, and you know he gets stuck in. He's not afraid of a tackle or a challenge. You often see photos of him. You know, he plays as well as Leeds in a white shirt. He's usually covered in grass stains or blood pouring out of his head. He's that type of defender where he puts his body on the line. So if we can get some sort of fee for him, I know Leeds didn't get promoted, and myself, I was hoping they would, so we can get good money for him. But if it's not Leeds, maybe another club will come in for him, and we can get more money for other transfers.
Leeds fans are desperate to sign him. They love him to a man. I know a few.
Yeah.
I mean, we can use him. And other players as well. We can use them as like to trade if we want a player and they want ours. We can get. I know we've been linked with a couple of Leeds as players, you know, Somerville or whatever. We can use these players to bargain and trade. I know Fabio Paratici has done that before with Lamela to get Brian Hill. You know, in hindsight, it wasn't the best idea, but there's room to be creative in the transfer window, and I think Paratici will take advantage of these situations.
Yeah. Great. Craig, let's come to you. Brian Hill. I would certainly sell him. I think that this has just been it hasn't been successful, has it? He's been at the club now for 3 years. He's only made 24 Premier League appearances in those 3 years, one assist in the Premier League, 13 other appearances in various cup competitions for Tottenham. His contract at Spurs expires in 2026. Surely it's going to be best for the club, best for Ange, best for the player, for him to go. You agree?
Yeah, again, another one I agree with. Brian Gill had high hopes for him as well, but it just hasn't worked out for him. Some players just are not cut out for the Premier League, and I think Brian Gill's one of those. Probably more suited to continental football, Spain, something like that. So for me, just take anything you can for Brian Gill and let him get on with his career. I'm sure there'll be plenty of suitors for him in Spain. So yeah, just hasn't worked out for him, has it? So yeah, sell.
Rich, do you think that he has been given enough opportunities, Brian Hill?
Yeah, I think he's obviously only had a couple of starts last season, but style of play is so predictable. You can tell what he's going to do on the ball. He's not strong enough. He doesn't offer enough on the pitch at all. I don't think he suits the style of play that Angie's wanting to develop. I don't think he's quick enough. He's got some obviously silky skills on the ball that probably is better for the Spanish league. And obviously at his age, at 23 years old, I think we need to cash in now, and that will probably be the case. I don't think another loan deal would be appropriate because of his contract length, like you said before, Chris. So I think probably just cash in on that.
What about you, Gary? Brian Hill, what have you made of his career at Tottenham?
Yeah, I was at the game when he came on his debut, and he had a good game. He was terrorising the defence. I think he hit the post, came quite close to scoring, so he looked promising. And I remember first watching him thinking, no, he's going to be really good. And I know he's getting a hard time because he was so skinny and frail, but I thought, look, there's been players like that before, Modric, for example, and he still became a good player. So I didn't write him off completely, but he's had more than enough opportunities. He goes down too easy and no end product. So it's a shame, but I must admit, I was a fan of Brian Hill at the very beginning, and I did honestly think he'd do well for Spurs, but it hasn't worked out. So, you just get rid of him now. It's like we spoke about them sort of players. They've had their opportunities and they've not done anywhere near enough. So just get them out.
Yeah, Brian Hill, sell for you?
Well, the best thing I ever saw him do that period in the game was, I think it was against Villa at home when they beat us, but we really dominated Villa for the first half. And he played Brian Hill, I think, a bit deeper. Maybe it's a false memory, but I don't think so. He played him deeper, and he was actually in those very tight spaces on the left, wide, deep. He played his way out of trouble really well a few times, And apart from that, I remember the beautiful little ball, clever ball inside for Harry Kane away to Crystal Palace in the league a couple of years ago was really good. But no, he's not done enough. He looks lightweight, and he doesn't look close to sort of being able to have the physical strength, the core strength to stand up to the Premier League. So we all want him gone, don't we? All of us. God bless him. He's not the worst player we've ever seen, but and the only time he ever looked promising when Gary was talking about, I think that was in Europe, wasn't it? Europa League.
Yeah, it was a European game. Yeah.
Yeah, and the defence was run a bit ragged already, and and he come on.
He did look good in that game, but
he's obviously a good footballer. He'll go on to have a good career. But probably in Spain or Italy. Yeah.
Has he scored for us? Has he scored a goal for us?
He got a penalty. He missed a pen the other week, didn't he?
I don't know if he did.
He scored a penalty away to somebody in a penalty shootout, didn't he? Do you remember?
It was in Australia.
The winning goal.
It was in Australia. Yeah.
Was it? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
He was the one who missed that first penalty.
No, but he scored. He scored a goal for us in a shootout in the League Cup about 3 years ago or something. I'm sure he did.
Oh, yeah.
He got the winning pen. It was away a team in the Midlands or something. Someone like Coventry.
I think you're right. I don't think he ever scored from open play, did he? I just think he.
No, I don't think so.
No, he didn't. No.
I don't think he made a proper cross in open play. But on the end of a Tottenham player either.
But like I said, Joe, 1 assist in 24 Premier League appearances, but I know a lot of those Premier League appearances were from the sub bench.
Yeah.
Melvyn, let's come to you. Rodrigo Bentancur, now 26. His contract runs out in 2026. He's spent 3 seasons at the club now, 58 Premier League appearances for us, 6 goals, 7 assists. Even Tim Sherwood a couple of months ago said that he thought that Bentancur would leave Spurs this summer. For me personally, I'd like to see Spurs keep him. I think there's a lot more to come from him. What about you?
Yeah, I love Bentancur. I have all the time for him. I know he had an ACL injury, and I think I'm ready to be patient with him because I know the kind of football player he is. I mean, I remember watching him at Juventus, and I have a few Juve fans who are friends of mine and I speak to every now and then. And a guy used to tell me, this Bentancur is so good. He's so good. And then he came to us, and I couldn't believe it. I know he made a couple of mistakes with us and this season, and he didn't play his best. But, I mean, it's been reported that you need another year I know you start to play, but you need another year to come back to full fitness. And you can see he wants to play for us, because he went to Postecoglou this season. He said, listen, you don't have any midfield, and I'm ready. I'm here and I want to play. And he played that game. I can't remember which game it was, but his wife leaked it on Twitter that, he's back, and then he played randomly the next game. Does anyone remember which game?
Was that Man United?
No. He played at home. He was injured, and
right. He's right. I can't remember the game, but he's bang on. Yeah, he was knocking on the door straight away. Yeah,
and I love that he went to Postecoglou and said, "Listen, you don't have anyone. He's injured. He's off to Asia, and you need me." And he said, "I'll play," and he played. And he said, "I'm ready." He came back from injury. He had the ankle injury, and I loved when he came off from the City game and he started smashing the chair. I just love it, because it's a player that shows he wants to win. He shows his passion. And I think he's a good football player. And I think he can fit the system. I just love everything about him. Even under Conte, I used to think this guy is our most important player. And then he got injured and it all went horribly.
I think it was Crystal Palace. I think it was Crystal Palace away.
Or I'm convinced it was a home game, but I think it was a home game, but I'm not sure. But yeah, about Bentancur, he's honestly one of my favorite players, Bentancur, and I'm so happy when he plays. And I think he's starting to come back to his best. And I'm excited to see he played for his national team yesterday. So the more minutes he plays, the more games that he plays. And even preseason, I want to see him play every single game to have more and more minutes under his belt. And I think we'll see the best of Rodrigo, for us in a spare shirt.
Craig, what about you, Bentancur?
Yeah, got to keep him. I know he hasn't fully come back to the heights and hit the heights that he did before his ACL, but there's a quality player in there. I think we saw glimpses of it from February onwards, and I know a bit like Maddison, he's just not back to his best quite yet. But like Melvyn, I think Melvin's right. I think he's perfect for the system. I think there's a place for him in this team. There's certainly a place for him in the squad. He is one we've certainly got to keep. So yeah, 100% keep Bentancur for me.
Rich, let's come on to you and let's talk about Yves Bissouma, now 27. Of course, we signed him from Brighton.
But
he's had 2 seasons at the club now.
Chris, can I just say something about I really agree with everyone was saying about Bentancur. Very elegant player, wonderful player. Only doubt is, does he actually fit Ange ball? Is he a number 6? Is he a number 8? Yeah, that's a bit of a debate at the moment where he would play. I think he's a wonderful player, elegant player. But is he a 6? Where's he going to play with Ange ball? Sorry, I had to say that.
The thing is, Jar, with the way that Ange plays, he always wants people to be versatile and can play in a number of positions. So I think that he almost expects whatever players in the squad, or certainly new targets, players coming in, he wants them to play in a number of different positions. And I absolutely love that as a fan. To have so many versatile players that can just fit in as and when he needs those players, because I think we've seen enough evidence of it this season where he even come out and said, well, Emerson Royale isn't a left back. And you think, well, if you play at right back, really, is it that much different to play at left back? You think as a professional footballer, you would be able to adapt into a different position, but not everybody can. And I think it's great that Ange...
I don't know about that. What impressed me, actually, it's all well and good saying, he expects players to play in different positions. Are they necessarily up to that? What I thought was interesting in that last game of the season when he played the box, in midfield. And that was in the last couple of games, wasn't it? Was it against City? He brought that out. And Bentancur looked good. When he was upset, when he come off and was upset, and was kicking, I could understand it because I felt he played very, very well. I thought the best.
Chris, I'm trying to wrap my brain. Wasn't it Bentancur that when we went up to Old Trafford? Wasn't it Bentancur that had a good game and scored and stuff?
That's right. Yeah.
I was there for that game. Us three.
Yeah, the 2-2, isn't it? Because he had a brilliant game in that one, didn't he? He scored a great goal.
Yeah. I think Werner set him up. Was the assist, wasn't it, in that goal?
Yeah, I know he had some players out for sickness or something, but I remember like everyone just assuming United were gonna, like turn us over like they normally do at Old Trafford. But I just remember Bentancur having a brilliant game. He was really good in that game, man.
Anyway, sorry,
Rich, let's come back.
I'd keep him, but I do think it's good.
Yeah,
with with the flexibility that Ange showed, he's more likely to fit in rather than making him a hard number 6 or hard number 8. I think it's better off for him to play more with that system with a box in midfield, where it's a little bit more fluid. That's where he looks. He's great brain on him, great footballer.
Rich, let's come back to you. Yves Bissouma, 2 seasons at the club, 28 appearances in the Premier League this season, 2 from the sub-bench, 23 appearances in the Premier League the season before, 13 from the sub-bench. We all know that Antonio Conte didn't fancy Bissouma, but he was he started the season off so well. Those opening 10 games, absolutely fantastic. Got sent off against Luton. It all seemed to be downhill from there. Many people are stating that they would like to see Bissouma leave. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think he's a frustrating player. One of the games that I went to last year was the Luton game at home, and he was shit in the first half. He got took off at half time. I think it was terrible, and he had his socks down and his shorts down, and I think he'd been out partying the night before. I thought he was lackadaisical. Passing was terrible. Positioning wasn't great. But then you see him, and he looks like a Rolls Royce kind of player, like kind of moving the ball between the lines and kind of bringing people into play and kind of really dictating the actual play from that deeper position and actually doing a lot of work. I think when you get a lazy Bissouma, he's not effective at all. He doesn't offer anything to the game. I think that is more about the manager getting the best out of the player, I think. And definitely Ange at the start of the season definitely did that. So it's whether he can continue that relationship. We just don't want to have another player like Nembele that just literally switches off and then we don't get anything from them. I could easily see him being sold though. I can easily see him being cashed in for sure. But whether we'd get enough good money for him to actually move him on and then get a better player in that position. I think sometimes as fans, we just need to be realistic. Like, obviously, professional athlete, what do we want from a professional athlete? Do we want somebody that's this 9 out of 10 every game? Or in certain scenarios, is he going to be the best option and be more effective? I would like Ange to kind of work with him and get the best out of him. And if that's the case, keep him. If not, then I think we need to move him on. I've seen the best of him, and live I saw the worst of him, and I thought he was terrible. Like, I literally was watching him going, this guy looks like he's just got out of bed. He doesn't want to play football. He doesn't even look like a footballer today, and he got taken off at half time.
Gary, let's come to you on Yves Bissouma. He's had a tough week. He went to France and he got mugged for his £260,000 watch. He's come back to England, cut the holiday short, come back to England. He's now at Hotspur Way training. He's had a tough week personally. Yves Bissouma, what have you made of his 2 seasons at the club, and what would you like to see happen? Sold, keep, loan, or rip up the contract?
I didn't know that happened to him actually, about the watch incident. So yeah, it's not nice to hear that. So, but for me, he's one of the players that I feel will be sold. I don't think we're going to have Bissouma when the season starts, and I'm fairly happy when he is sold. I won't miss him that much because he had a lot of mistakes in him, and like Richard touched on, some games he'd be awful. He's a bit of a frustrating player for me. So for me, sell, but I think he will be sold anyway. I think he'll be one of the players. There's always going to be that one player people go, oh, and that will be the one for me. I think he's gone. I really do.
I would keep him personally. Yeah, I know this is one player you couldn't wait to get on the subject of. So I'm interested to hear your opinion now. Ja, Basuma?
Yeah, sorry, I thought you said Melvyn. Sometimes I hear the syllable jar as Melvyn. Sorry, that's because I'm deaf. Well, firstly, I think it's totally reasonable to wear a £250,000 watch on holiday in the south of France. I don't think it's asking for trouble. It's the kind of thing I do. So I'd just like to say I think it's a very reasonable thing to do. There's no criticism implied by me with that. But I thought he'd probably be gone. Like similar to Gary, I thought he'd be gone. And similar to Richard, when he's good, he's really good. So the start of last season, he looked the best player in that deep role since Dembele, not Ndembele, Dembele. You know, he was press resistant, twisting and turning, some incredible runs, and then his distribution was good. But then he got the red at Luton, and that seemed to coincide with him being terrible. So, and I had an idea on his way, but I saw something in the press, Ange, absolutely praising him. Thing we haven't mentioned, he had malaria as well.
Yeah.
You know, you think if you've got malaria, that maybe you might be best off to have a rest, possibly, than play Premier League football. You know, so it seems Ange fancies him. It seemed to me like he probably wasn't going to go anywhere. But that's just one. Who knows if it's accurate? But he was praising him to high heaven. He said something along the lines, he'd had malaria. He'd had a very interrupted season with injuries and red cards. And it's very hard to keep a level of performance up when you're broken up. Your performances are broken up. You don't get the clear run you'd like. So you seem to be very sympathetic to him. And it seemed to me like he probably wasn't going to go anywhere. You know, personally, I would trust the gaffer's choice with that, really. If you told me he was being transferred, I wouldn't cry about it. If they keep him, well, okay. I would like to see another good, solid, deep-playing midfielder coming, you know? Somebody who's not ambiguous, who can maybe play up front, more forward. I want to see someone who can be that pivot player, like a Declan Rice, that, you know, someone who that's their job, you know?
Yeah. Melvyn, let's come to you. Emerson Royal, 25 years old. His contract ends in 2026. 79 Premier League appearances for the club, 4 goals, 2 assists. We've only kept 12 clean sheets while he's played in those 79 games. Last season, he made a total of 22 appearances, 11 from the bench. And it's fair to say he played it across the whole of the back line. Played at centre back, played at left back, played at right back all season. He's fitted in fairly decently under Postecoglou, but I personally think it's time for him to leave. You know, you can usually tell, you know, with certain players that it is their time to go. AC Milan are apparently talking to Spurs right now, and they're trying to agree a fee, and apparently that's exactly where he wants to go. So it's a definite sell for me. Do you agree, or would you be sad to see him go?
I think most Spurs fans wanted to sell him, you know, the summer we bought him. He couldn't get settled properly.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to sell him. If we get 20 million from AC Milan, it's more money for the transfer window for us to buy, you know, other players. If it's disappointing because when we bought him from Barcelona, when you buy someone from Barcelona, you think, oh, this guy must be really good. And his highlight reels he's a bit like a cult hero with the stuff he does on Twitter and off the pitch. But it's the stuff he does on the pitch that matters. So for me, it's quite simple. You just sell him and move on. Use the money to buy more players, and that's it.
Craig, it wouldn't be right if I didn't ask you about Emerson Royal before we move on to the next player, because you were very, very critical of Emerson Royal on this channel week in, week out after games. But I think it's fair to say that he did improve. He spent all that money trying to improve his game. We certainly saw a change in him. but surely it's time for him to go now.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is. I think his time's up. As you say, he was under a lot of pressure from the fans just to do better, and I think he did. He did have some really good games, but just not enough. He's not suited to this system. He's not suited to the role. He's not a bad defender at all, I don't think. But he can't fit in at left back or right back under Ange. And I think we could probably do better. Well, I know we could do better as a cover for Porro. So for me, again, thank you very much, Emerson, but it is time to go. I mean, hopefully he gets his move to AC Milan. That'd be good. As Melvyn says, we get a bit of money in for him. More's the better. Absolutely. But what's he been here? 2-3 years now, did you say? So, yeah, time to move on, I think.
Richard, I'm going to come to you on Christian Romero. Of course, a real leader on the pitch. You're always going on about leadership on the pitch, and I think Romero certainly shows that. His discipline, I think, has been really improved as well. He's a definite keep for me. His contract ends in 2027. Of course, World Cup winner, 82 Premier League appearances for us, 6 goals, 1 assist. We've kept 18 clean sheets with him in the back line. He's had 3 seasons at the club. Last season, 33 Premier League appearances, 5 goals. How impressed have you been with Romero this year?
Yeah, and his discipline as well. Obviously, that's massively changed from the season before. I think obviously he's taken his role within that leadership threesome that it's actually improved his decision making on and off the ball. He's had so many opportunities in front of goal. I think that's something that if he improves, that will massively affect obviously his effectiveness, not only in the defensive box but also the attacking box as well. And I think it's really interesting the kind of attacking positions he's actually getting himself in. So for me, it's like if he can continue to improve, I think Spurs have got a great leader that can continue from season to season. I think when we're talking about kind of, are we going to rip up the contracts or sell these players or buy new players, we always need to think about, we finished 5th last season. To be in that top 4, we need to have top 4 players. And so a lot of these players we're talking about aren't top 4 players. The Royals, the Brian Hills of this world, it needs to be a cutthroat decision. If they're not showing that kind of drive, enthusiasm, resilience, kind of appetite for the game, or they're not improving season on season, we need to see that improvement. Then they need to be moved on, and then we need to be really cutthroat with these players, because the kind of players we should be attracting is those players that are going to elevate us into that top 4 and then push for those trophies and be more consistent. We need to be consistent with our performances as well. And some of the players that we have talked about haven't been consistent and haven't elevated into that top 4 Champions League position.
The pleasing thing, I think, Rich, as fans, is that we are seeing change under Postecoglou, and that is a word that he uses a lot, isn't it, this season? Change.
Yeah, for sure. And the behaviours of the players is key as well. And also, what is key is what happens on the pitch, right? And all the bullshit off the pitch with like players doing all this extracurricular stuff, and we don't really want to be seeing that or having that take away from the performance. Everything on the pitch needs to be how Ange needs it. He's like the conductor. He's conducting his players. He's conducting his leaders on the pitch that then demonstrating the style of play that he wants to have. And that's what's important. And then having the cutthroat finishers that then can finish. That's the thing that we're kind of are missing a little bit, that we need to invest. We need to invest in those really ruthless finishers. And I think in certain areas, we haven't got those at the moment. And for me, that's the thing in the summer we need to have. We've got some leaders now. Yeah, which is great. They're showing that leadership. We need to have those final third, like cutthroat, like finishers that when it goes into the box, we know we've got somebody on the end of it that's going to put it in the top corner. That's what we need.
Gary, let's come to you. Let's talk about Richarlison. His contract ends in 2027. He's 27 years old. He spent 2 seasons at Spurs. Of course, we signed him from Everton. His first Premier League season at the club, he scored 1 goal. Second, in Premier League history at various different clubs. He's made a total of 228 appearances, 60 goals and 23 assists. Personally, for me, and I know a lot of people will probably be upset by me saying this, I would actually sell Richarlison, and I would hope that Spurs would go out and, you know, get some decent strikers, perhaps proven strikers, someone a little bit different to Richarlison, and show some ambition of where we want to be as a football club, because I like Richarlison, but I just can't see him doing it on a consistent basis. What about you?
No, I'm exactly the same. I actually have got a list of keep, sell, loan or rip up, and he was kind of halfway in the middle of keep and sell. I put him right in the middle, and I feel a bit with him like I do with Johnson. It's very similar, but he did improve. He did get better, but not really the end product, you know. And Richard spoke about being in the top 4, but I don't even think just that. I think that, but also if you want to compete in any of the cups or trophies and really get some silverware, whether it be the Carabao, Europa, you need someone a bit better in front of goal. And when I think about goals from outside the box and stuff, I don't think he hardly scored any. Just not really enough for me. So I think if we're going to be ambitious and we're going to go, you know, on a cup runs and try and win trophies, we do need to improve. He's not good enough, along with Johnson as well. You know, I know we haven't got to him yet, but I'll throw it in there. He's not been good enough either. So it's just, it is what it is. We need to be ruthless. Not even ruthless. We need to be like those top teams are being. And that's something Tottenham haven't been. You know, so those sort of players, we can't just carry them along for a few years. They're not really good enough, Chris, you know, so.
Yeah, when Harry Kane was still a Spurs player, I remember you being on the podcast after the game that we played in Singapore in the pre-season friendly. Yeah. And I remember asking you this question. Would you be happy with Richarlison being at the club and being the Harry Kane replacement, if you like, if Harry Kane left? And you said, yes, you would be happy with Richarlison up front. Do you still stand by that comment? And are you still happy that he is our only player, Jar?
Well, with what I now know about Ange Ball and what I've seen with my own eyes, 2 things. He hasn't been fit, hardly. So that's got to be a factor, you know. I agree with what Gary says. He doesn't get any goals outside the box, but he is a good one-touch finisher. And you'd like to think if we got these 2 wide players with Johnson and Werner, especially when they play with balls coming in, he would get on the end of stuff. But he's not been fit. So, you know, at that time, he always impressed me when he was with Everton. But he was more of a lone striker in a poor team. He was the guy that sort of single-handedly kept him up. It was like these heroic performances as a number 9. What I can't get away from wanting to see now is somebody in that number 9 who can drop deep, can drop deep, turn, spin, play other people in, a little bit like Kane used to do, can come off the shoulder when necessary, is basically a handful throughout the game. Somebody who can be a bit neat and tidy, can hold it up, lay it off. Richarlison outside the area especially looks a bit clumsy at times, you know. He's not got the best first touch in the world. But, you know, he's not been fit. So it makes it so difficult. But I'm sick of Spurs, as we've already discussed, Spurs players never being bloody fit. Him, Lo Celso, Sessegnon, you know, everyone's injured all the time, you know. Maddison was out, right? I'm not saying wasn't genuine with Maddison at all, you know. So right now, if you said, come on, I would say my point of view's probably changed. And I would be much more excited if we got like these. It wouldn't even be a great big massive number 9. It would be somebody who can, you know, this number 9 role has changed so much. Somebody can do all those things I'm talking about, coming short, playing off the shoulder, running the channels, being a handful, playing people in, but also able to finish. Obviously, those kind of players don't grow on trees, you know. But but can you imagine that's Ange ball?
Yeah.
You know, and maybe it's going to be down to recruitment. Maybe there's someone out there we don't know. They're going to buy from Asia, even from Korea or something, for 10 mil. You know, who's going to fit that bill? They've done their research and their recruitment. You know, but that's what I'd like to see. You know, I just felt at times last season, there were games, long periods of games, especially in the second half of the season, where I felt we had nothing up front, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, but
none of them individually were good enough.
I also think we didn't have somebody that could take the pressure off the defence. You know how he was great at holding up the ball, winning that free kick.
Yeah,
it would then take the pressure off the defence, and that's the thing that we've massively missed. Having that strength in that position is key to what Ange is trying to deliver there. And I don't think Richarlison's got the presence to be able to hold the ball, win that free kick, move the play up the field, and then start again. That's the thing. And it also breaks up this kind of five-a-side like play where we're attacking, we're defending, we're attacking. It gives me a heart attack sometimes. I would just want us to win a free kick in that final third, but with some strong forward play, and then we regroup and then push on from there. That's what we're missing within the team.
Yeah, a little bit of nous.
So would you?
And a little bit, some kind of a system at play. Melvin's going to say something smart. He hasn't said a dumb thing.
Well, Jar, can I just get your final answer on Richarlison? So you'd sell him, would you?
Reluctantly, yes. Yeah.
Melvyn, what about you, Richie?
It annoys me a bit how a player that we buy, we pay 50, 60 million that we want. Even Bissouma is in this category. 1 season, 2 seasons, and we're ready to jump ship. I mean, football is a long process. You build a team. Look at, for example, I'll give you an example, Moussa Sissoko. Spurs fans hated him in the beginning, but he stayed with the club year after year after year. Eventually, his time came, and he was very vital in that run that got us into the Champions League and the season after. Even Eric Lamela didn't score a goal in his first season, but he stayed at the club 4 or 5 years, and he played his part, and he scored important goals for us. Richarlison in his first season didn't do anything, but he was injured. In his second season, he was injured, had surgery, came back, scored 11 goals, and without him, we would have finished 9th. We played probably our nicest football with him pressing up front. And honestly, when Son was away, he stepped up. And for me, yes, is he good enough? Maybe, maybe not. At times he was, at times he wasn't. But he's a good player to have around. He's 27. He's strong. He fits the system. We played better with Richarlison. When honestly, I think this season, if we didn't have Richarlison up top, we would have finished 9th.
I think you're right, Mel. That's why I had him sort of halfway in the keep and halfway in the sell. I think I'm a bit.
Yeah, but we're talking.
This is what annoys me.
But we're talking about the future. We're talking about the future and progression.
Yeah,
and
because
I mean, you know,
we're 1 season. Sorry, I've been quiet. Sorry, I've been quiet.
What have we won with any of them players? Nothing.
No, but it's a process. Look how long it took Pochettino to get to a really proper final. 5 years of building, 5 years of trial and error.
I know, but Sissoko put his arm out and we were 1-0 down.
No, but Richarlison, without him this season, he's our 3rd highest in contributions of goals and assists. Even Brendan Johnson, which you pointed out, not good enough. 2nd on highest goals and assists. He's 21, Brendan Johnson, which I'm going to come to. Brendan Johnson in the next couple of years will be one of our best players. Son is not the future. Brendan Johnson is probably the future. He's young. He's gonna learn Postecoglou's system. If we're all gonna back Ange, we back his philosophy and give him time to implement it into these players. Honestly, it makes me angry when we sit here and we say, okay, Ben Davies, yes, I agree, sell. The guys are old, but these guys are young. These are young players. There's still time for them for them to play. Bissouma in the same category. His first season, he didn't do anything. In the early part of this season, they were saying, "Oh, Conte had 100 million player on the bench, but he never played him." The guy went to play in Africa, came back with malaria, and now we're ready to jump ship just because he had a couple of bad games. I mean, it's a process. It takes time. There's a player in there, and we're ready to give up on him just because he had a couple of bad games. I mean, come on. I know Spurs fans. We're quite.
Is it a couple of bad games though, Melvyn? One Premier League goal in the first season.
Wait a minute, and to be fair, he's been injured. He was injured for a lot of the season, Richarlison. You know,
we played some of our best pressing and attacking football this season under Richarlison. The Sheffield game wouldn't have happened until he came off the bench and scored that header, which we drew.
Yeah, agreed.
I think you're too sentimental about players.
One of the moments of the season, which was, I listen to podcasts and people talk about Spurs all day, and everyone mentions the Sheffield game. It never would have happened. Kulusevski would have never scored if Richarlison hadn't equalised. Moments like that at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I agree. It's wrong to dismiss Richarlison too readily. I have to say that, we don't.
But I don't think we are. I think there's a difference between, like Melvyn saying, giving up. But are you giving up or are you looking to improve? They're two different things.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point.
We have European football next season. You need 26 players. You need.
What you do, you bring in the kind of player I'm talking about, that we're all probably thinking of. This number 9 who comes short, who's a different kettle of fish to Richarlison, and they compete for the number 9 shirt. That's what you do,
Yeah, that's what you do. I like Richarlison, and that's why I'm sitting on the fence with him. But I just think if you're looking at a player better than Richarlison, is that giving up or is that looking to improve and progress? It's two sides to the coin, isn't there?
Well, I think.
Can I just go round?
You add to.
Can I just go round to everyone?
Right, folks. I would have thought, say, with the kind of player you'd be getting in is some 21-year-old, 22-year-old.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just under 21 experience, not yet a full international. Maybe that's what they were thinking about with that Argentinian kid they signed, who then went off to Spain and didn't get a kick. Yeah.
Craig, Richarlison, keep or sell? Just one word.
Personally, sell.
Richard, keep or sell?
Do you want a sell or keep, or do you want a little bit of an explanation behind it?
No, just to keep or sell.
I would keep him.
Melvyn, you'd keep him. You'd sell him.
But there's a reason behind it.
Right now, I'd probably edge towards, he goes just because I suspect he wouldn't be Ange's first choice as a type of striker, just for that reason.
I agree.
But if he stayed, I would not be upset at all. But I think Ange, now we're getting to the point with his second stage, you're going to have to get every building block as to be what he wants. And I
think if we want progress,
exactly.
Can I just say, Richarlison is probably not enough. You need another striker with him because he only played 18 games this season. So you need an Ivan Toney with him. But as a squad, we cried for years that Kane needed another player with him. We cried for years that we needed another understudy to Kane. And now that we have Richarlison on the bench, we want to on the team. We want to sell him. We don't even have a recognized striker, and we want to sell our only recognized striker. I mean, keep him and add another to him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an issue in itself, Melvyn. If Richarlison is then a backup or a sub most weeks, that is not going to be good for him. And I just don't think you're going to get the best out of Richarlison when he's playing second fiddle to a brand new signing coming in. And that's probably one of the other reasons why I'd probably try to offload him if we could, because there are many reports stating that the Saudi League would pay pretty much what we paid Everton for him. And I think if you can cash in and get a good amount of money and we can bring in other players and progress.
Chris, remember what Postecoglou said when Radu Dragusin was signed, and they asked him, when's he going to play? He said he signed for a big club. If he wants to play, he'll show it in training. That answer was perfectly solved by Postecoglou, because Van de Ven was undroppable. But we signed a big player, and if he wants to play, he'll show that he'll earn his place in the team. And it's the same mentality with Richarlison. If we have, let's say, another striker, Ivan Toney, for example, and Ivan Toney is starting, Postecoglou will say the same thing to Richarlison. Listen, earn your place. You're at a big team. When Manchester City buy 6 or 7 players, they all rotate. Guardiola finds time for them all to keep them fresh. And that's what Spurs need to do. They need to have multiple players for all the positions. And I feel we only have one for every position.
I just question the consistency, and I said, in the last couple of months, certainly the last games of the season, when Richarlison wasn't there, no one ever seemed to say that.
Let's come back.
Craig, let's come to you. Oliver Skipp, 23, had very limited game time under Postecoglou. Keep or sell, or loan out?
I would personally loan Skippy. I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he's going to be second choice, if not third. But the problem you've got is the club trained players issue with numbers. I think we've only got 3, and then we need 4, don't we? So I can probably see him holding on to Oliver Skipp. But if it was up to me, I think he could probably do with a loan and go away and play some first team football and then reassess next season. I don't know when his contract expires. I think he's got a fair few years to run. So for me, I mean, he's not 27. A bad player, Skippy, 27. Yeah, he's not a bad player, but there's other players ahead of him in the pecking order. So loan for me, but I think Skippy will probably stick around unless they bring back somebody like Marcus Edwards or promote a couple of youngsters from the youth ranks.
I would sell him. Richard, Oliver Skipp.
Yeah, I think you look at the last 3 seasons, a very similar amount of appearances, apart from the season that has just gone, 16 substitute appearances, where the year before only 5 out of 23. So you'd say a decrease on amount of 90 minutes on the pitch. Performance-wise as well, I've not really seen him adapt to the Ange way of playing. I would think even at the age that he's at, 23, he's got a good kind of ceiling regarding value. He's not going to be a player that you loan out. You either keep him or sell him. I think that's the real question. And I think for me, again, it's do you think somebody like Skippy would get you into that kind of at that next level? I've thought it for a couple of seasons. I didn't think he was. He offered enough. I think he was challenged within different managers around. You need to do more within the field of play. You can't just sit back and do those kind of diagonal balls. You need to be bringing the ball forwards and kind of beating the lines. And I don't think he's done enough of that. So I would reluctantly actually sell him.
Gary, let's come to you. James Maddison, 27 years old. Of course, he spent the first year at the club, 28 Premier League appearances this season, 2 from the sub bench, 4 goals, 1 appearance in the FA Cup, 1 in the League Cup. His contract expires in 2028. What have you made of James Maddison in the Spurs shirt this season? And what have you made of Gareth Southgate's decision not to take him to the Euros?
Well, I think Maddison's been brilliant. Obviously, once, the car crash game happened against Chelsea, he's never quite been the same since he came back from injury. But the first part of that season, he was amazing. And I think he was just starting to get some form. I can see why Gareth Southgate has done it. There's a lot of players in that position, probably on merit, are better or playing better. I probably would have still taken him along. But I can see why Southgate has done it. But in regards to Maddison at Tottenham Hotspur, I think he's been brilliant. I mean, he's been absolutely amazing. It's just a shame you know, he got that injury when he did against Chelsea. But for me, you know, he's been one of our best players. I think he's brilliant. And I think, you know, once the new season starts, he'll be like he started last season. You know, I think he's just starting to get a bit of form again. Still got slight, not 100% because of that injury, but I think it'll be great. Obviously, the Tottenham alliance, I felt a bit gutted for him. Why Southgate didn't bring him, but I can understand why. So, yeah.
Gary, I don't know whether you saw the absolute shithousery from Neil Maupay, the picture of him smiling in front of a dartboard with the darts. Unbelievable.
But I think when you're someone like Maupay, it kind of reminds me of someone that's not very funny. When someone famous dies, they're straight in there with the jokes. It's just attention seeking. You know, he's not being recognised or known for anything he's doing on the pitch. So he just has to do it on social media. I mean, I loved him when he went after Arsenal, when he wound up Ty off that other show and, you know, and he gave them all the grief. But ultimately, as a footballer, he's not that great. So he needs to get the attention in other ways. So that's why he did what he did, you know, and that's it. It's like that bad joke that someone sends when someone's just passed away. You know, it's too early. That's Maupay.
Can I come in on the James Maddison thing? And that Maupay thing is just a bit of a bad smell, isn't it? And it's like nobody likes to see him play. He doesn't really offer a lot, and for me, he's just a bit of a clown, really. So it doesn't really concern me.
It's pretty low though, Rich, isn't it? It's pretty low that timing. And
yeah, but you get those people that try to have that kind of edge around. What will happen is he'll try and utilise that when obviously they next meet. But the James Maddison thing is quite interesting because he showed moments in a Spurs shirt that have really kind of excited us and around this kind of Eriksen-esque kind of, we wanted this person that can really develop the play. But I think when James Maddison actually looks back at his season, because you look back at his career, so he's only scored 4 goals this year. That's the worst return goals since 2015. And also the impact that I was expecting from James Maddison, especially around the dead ball situation, which I've talked about a lot, has not happened. We've not had the impact from James Maddison in those vital areas. I also think from his injury, and yes, he hasn't been injured, but you look at his consistent appearances as well, very similar to every season. He normally plays about 30 games a year. He's not returned the amount of goals and assists that I would expect from him. He's a great player, and I believe that next season, with this rest, he definitely offers something different than the England squad, going back to that question. But I think this rest is going to do him good. One, for focus, to kind of reflect on this season and go, actually, what has he got to do next season better? Definitely more consistent. He needs to last 90 minutes. I feel that 60 minutes is all that he's lasted within games. Be more effective on the dead ball situation and score more goals. There's definitely big improvements there. I think James Maddison is like Melvyn alluded to. Some players take a season, 2 seasons to adapt. He's come from obviously a Leicester team that did get relegated. But I think he's a Spurs player. He's got great ability, technical ability. He's always up for a fight. The thing for me this season, he showed glimpses, but he's not changed enough. He's not scored enough goals, and he's not had those moments consistent enough for me.
Yeah, well said, Rich. Jar, let's come to you. Dearman Kulusevski, still only 24 years old. His contract expires in 2028. He's made 84 Premier League appearances for Tottenham, 15 goals, 18 assists. He spent 3 seasons at the club. Last season, 36 Premier League appearances, 5 from the sub bench, 8 goals. What have you made of his season, and would you like to keep him?
Well, he did fantastic with Conte, didn't he? Him and Bentancur were a revelation, and he looked really great at the beginning of this season. But he's just been like Maddison, like all of them, really up and down this year. At times he looks like a kind of bread and butter inverted winger. You know, come back on, but come back inside. Why don't you and pass it back in? Don't take your man on. You know, but Ange seems to like him. He, on a good day, can retain the ball well, play his way out of tight situations. Just so often when he went to take his man on, he didn't look as confident as you'd like. You know, too often he wants to come back on his left foot, and everybody's well prepared for that, but he puts the miles in. I think he run at one point more in the season. He'd run more than any other Premier League player, I think, on stats. Obviously a good player, obviously a decent player. Not enough goals in him, not enough killer crosses in it, because he can really cross the ball, but he doesn't put enough in. A little bit predictable at times. And like Richard just said about Maddison, he's got to up his game a bit now. He's got to up his game next season. I'd be very surprised if he'd go anywhere, but he's an outside chance he could, because I think a lot of Italian clubs, I think Conte would probably love him at Napoli, and it's like Richarlison. I think for certain players, if they get a big enough bid, they may let those players go. As long as it's not to a close rival, they might let them go. But I guess at this point, I'd keep him. He seems a likeable lad. I just find him a little bit bread and butter some days. The ball goes out to him. He's wide. There isn't a huge amount of pace there. He looks like he might go outside, but no, he won't. So he's going to come back inside. He's going to lay it off, and we just start recycling the ball, and it gets switched eventually. And I know that's part of the game. City do it. But sometimes you'd like to see your winger take his man on a little bit, make a few runs, a bit more link-up play, So I guess at this point, I'd keep him. But if he went, I wouldn't try, actually, Because yet again, I'm not absolutely certain that he fits Ange ball. Whereas I think Johnson and Werner do. Definite wide players that get chalk on their boots through the game, So I'm not sure he does. But having said that, he seems to like him. He's talked very well about him. So I guess he won't go anywhere. So that's my take on it.
Melvyn, would you like Dearman Kulusevski to stay at the club? Because, of course, we talk about versatility and players under Postecoglou. He's played on the left this season. He's played through the middle and, of course, played on the right. Yeah,
I would keep Kulusevski. I think I've been disappointed with this season. I thought he would produce more numbers, even though he wasn't that bad. I mean, considering we've had an inconsistent season, and Postecoglou at the end of this season actually said he's looking for Spurs to be more consistent next season. So if that's going to be more cover, more rotation, I think maybe the players getting used to the system. We don't know, but Kulusevski is one that, it's interesting. He played him in the Lo Celso role instead of Gio. So he left Lo Celso on the bench and he played Kulusevski there because maybe he sees him in that position. So I don't know. He's still 24 years old, Kulusevski. He's still a young player. I mean, there's lots of football to come out of him. I mean, it's his second season in the Premier League, or second 2.5 if you consider his first 6 months. I mean, I still really like Kulusevski. I know he wasn't as good as he was last season, but I think everyone's showed this season what they can do. It's just a matter of dialing it in and being more consistent. I'm going to use the same phrase. It's consistency, and it comes with time and with training, and hopefully next season he'll figure out what's his best position, because it's through playing on the right. I think he keeps cutting on the left, slowing it down, and I think it gets repetitive, and teams, they've learned what he does, and in a way he's been, I hate to say it, but found out. But he's definitely versatile, and for his age and his profile, I think we keep him. We definitely keep him.
Greg, let's come to you. Ashley Phillips. Of course, he spent the season on loan at Plymouth Argyle. Do you think it's going to be finally time for Ange to introduce him to the first team, or do you think it's going to be another loan?
I would hope he has a look at him in pre-season, to be honest with you, because why did we bring him in? You know, I mean, I've seen him play. He's not the worst centre back you'll ever see. I have to say, he said he wants another centre back. Well, we kind of got one, so I think he needs to have a good look at him. But if he's not ready yet, if he thinks he's not ready, as we hear, like we're talking about Jamie Donnelly, Will Lancashire, Mikey Moore, a few of the others, they're good and they're pushing, but they're not quite there yet. Perhaps Ashley Phillips is in that category. I certainly wouldn't sell him. I think at worst he goes on loan again next season. But I think Ange's got to have a look at him in pre-season. Give him at least, perhaps the home friend is the QPR and the Hearts one. See how he does. Give him 90 minutes in each game and see how he does. And see, that could solve the centre-back issue that he wants. But from what we hear, he does want to bring somebody in. Give Ashley Phillips a go. See what he's like. But if not, I think a loan is probably the best thing for him.
And it was a successful loan as well. He was Player of the Year at Plymouth. Rich, absolutely. I'm going to come to you on another player that has had a lot of injury problems since joining Spurs. And it appears that Tottenham haven't given any money for Mana Solomon to Shakhtar Donetsk. Of course, they had the friendly, but the Ukraine club were demanding a fee, and I don't think Spurs have sorted that situation out yet. But he's 24. His contract ends in 28. He only had one League Cup appearance and 5 Premier League appearances last season, 3 from the bench. I've seen a lot of Spurs fans be very critical about the injuries, and it's great to see on social media yesterday that he posted that he's now back on the grass. He's now working with a football, shooting into empty goals. Great to see him back. But I've seen a lot of people say that they want him sold. How do you feel?
Yeah, when I heard obviously the impact when he first came into the team, and obviously everybody was very impressed technically the ability he had within training, and I just think we've obviously not seen any of that. He's not. I don't think he's going to be sold, to be honest. I think obviously he's still 24 years old. We've not seen the best of him, obviously. Players need time to adapt and develop. Obviously, new manager, kind of new system. Obviously, when we saw those glimpses, you could see the player and see how that player could really kind of adapt to the play. When we talk about players like Werner within his position as well, that Solomon could be another option out wide. I think for me, Solomon needs to have his chance. Melvin's talked about obviously these players obviously getting the opportunity to play for such a big club like Spurs, but then if you're not giving them the opportunity, the chance, then you can't just ditch them. Obviously, professionals, they've got a skill set, and they need to have the opportunity to show that. And we've not really seen the best of him yet. When we saw him obviously at Fulham previous seasons, you could actually see where he might fit in. He's not been one of those kind of players that would score you 10, 15 goals per season. And maybe he's an impact player that we utilise within some of the cup competitions, but then ease him onto the pitch. You could see obviously Solomon being a player that the manager actually thinks he's not going to fit into the system. He's injury prone. Let's kind of move him on. But for me, I don't think that's the case. I think he'll be a squad player initially, and then maybe in January we might move on if he's not actually made an impact on the pitch.
Gary, goalkeeper Vicario, of course, first season in the Premier League for us. He played in every single Premier League game last season, 38 appearances, kept 7 clean sheets, played the 2 games in the FA Cup. The only game that you missed, which I think one of you mentioned earlier, was the League Cup game against Fulham. His contract goes until 2028. He's now a regular in the Italy team as well. What have you made of Vicario? And I think that all 6 of us want to keep him, don't we?
Yeah, he's been brilliant, hasn't he? I mean, his shot stopping and stuff has been absolutely amazing. I don't really think, you remember them first few games, he was a bit shaky, wasn't he? And we thought, oh, what's going to happen here? But wow, You know, look, we touched on it earlier. He does need to be a bit stronger in the box and command it a bit more. That's the only criticism I'll have of him. But God, when I think of some of them saves he's pulled off this season, I mean, you talk about outfield players and winning games, but how many games has Vicario won us? A lot. He has been unbelievable, some of the saves he's done. I mean, wow, he's been really good. So for me, you know, I honestly think he's been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. I really do. I think he's been brilliant. And I know we finished 5th and we leaked goals and stuff like that, but the defence has to take a bit of responsibility of that. But I think overall as a goalkeeper, for me, I think he's the best in the Premier League for me.
John, let's come to you on Pedro Porro, 24 years old. And I think, as Melvyn rightly said, I think a lot of fans forget how young a lot of these players still are at this club. His contract ends in 2028, 50 Premier League appearances for us, 6 goals, 10 assists. We've kept 6 clean sheets whilst he's in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. He was heavily criticised, actually, the first few games that he played for us. But I think since Ange Postecoglou has come in, he's really worked on his defensive side of the game. We certainly know that he can shoot and he can certainly whip a ball in. And when you think that James Maddison and Pedro Porro, probably 2 of our most creative players this season, and neither player are going to Euro 2024, what do you make of the decision of Spain not including him in the squad?
I'm quite happy. And I'm happy about Maddison really not going, because it gives them time to get further indoctrinated with Ange ball and on the like Madders not have Southgate putting his ideas in his nut, so he doesn't have to have conflicting ideas. Porro, Spain must have some great right backs. I'm sure they do, you know, for him not to be going. When he first joined, we were all very excited, and he had was it away to Leicester? He got mullered. He looked terrible. Yeah. He looked like our worst. Yeah. He looked even worse than that Gilberto geezer, was it? The Brazilian we had who couldn't kick a ball. He looked terrible. But he really, I saw him do an interview, and he said he was shocked at the pace of the Premier League, and he really put the hard yards in training, and did really, really well. Did fantastically well. And what a right foot! He's a great player. I wonder. Not only did he play with a little box hand, he mixed up his tactics a bit. At times, we looked to have gone 3 at the back. And I wonder if we might see more of that this year, and Porro play more as a wing back on the right rather than a full back. He looks like he can handle both jobs. But obviously, in terms of keep or sell, we keep the geezer, don't we? He's a really... And he looks like he plays with pride in the shirt. Unless he's a good actor, you know, but he looks like he cares. Great right foot. He's a guy for a right back. He looks like he's got 6 outstanding goals in him every year, and he can cross the ball. And I'd like to see him take more of the free kicks. By the way, you know, he's looked at when he was in Portugal. He was a good free kick taker. So he's one we're going to keep him. He's a terrific player. All right, looks really good. Yeah. And I'm glad he's not gone to the Euros. The more of them stay with Ange and prepare, with hopefully motivated by the being upset and not going, and really prepare to have a fantastic season for Tottenham and stuff it down everyone's throats, including Neil Mopay. You know, who's just, you know, this is the trouble with social media with people like that posting stuff. You know, there's no filter there, unfortunately. So. You know, that old saying, empty vessels make the most noise. Well, social media really allows that, you know. They just go from 0 to 60 in terms of absolute stupidity, you know. Yeah.
If there was a Ballon d'Or, he'd definitely win it.
Sure. He'd be up there. He's an Olympian level bell end contender. Yeah, he really is.
Melvyn, let's come to you on Aleko Veliz. Of course, he went out on loan this season. First season at Spurs, 8 Premier League appearances, 1 goal. Of course, he scored his only goal away at Brighton. All of the Premier League appearances this season were all from the bench. Only 20 years old. As I say, went out on loan, didn't get that much game time at all. What is best for him and his development? Do you want to see him be given a chance from next year, or do you think it's best that Postecoglou sends him out on loan again?
I think alone. Probably, I wouldn't even keep him at the preseason. I would send him out on loan immediately and tell him, train with the team, go on preseason with them, get settled, make sure we find him a team that they're going to play him, first of all, because he needs minutes. If somehow that he can get a Premier League loan, I know it's difficult, but that would be ideal. But if not, from things you hear online, there's interest in Italy and in Spain and stuff like that. But he needs to play. I mean, from what we've seen and what I've seen of him, he looks like a decent player, but he's still very, very raw. I mean, he's still a young talent, and he needs minutes under his belt, and he needs to play, very high-level football. He needs to play either in England or Italy or Spain, even Germany, one of those top 4 leagues.
Craig, let's come to you. Brennan Johnson, 23 years old. His contract runs out in 2029. 32 Premier League appearances for us last season, 9 from the bench, 5 goals, 2 appearances in the FA Cup. I think this is a player, certainly all season, that has split opinion, definitely on this podcast and definitely on social media. What have you made of Brennan Johnson's first season in a Spurs shirt? And do you think that Ange Postecoglou can get even more out of him in future seasons?
I think I've said on here many times, actually, that Brennan Johnson's probably had more game time and started more games than was ever intended for him. He was probably brought in, a year, get in and around the first team squad, learn the system, perhaps make a few or most of his appearances from the bench. And it's not come to pass because of injuries and everything else we had going on this season. He's probably played a bit more than they anticipated. For me, there is so much more to come from Johnson. I know that's not going to be opinion of a lot of people. Like you see, he's a bit Marmite, but I can see a player in there. He's quick. He actually runs at people and he puts in reasonable crosses. I'd like to see him vary it up a bit, but there's worse than him out there. I think there's a lot more to come from him. I don't understand the amount of stick he gets, to be honest with you. I don't think he's fair. I mean, I don't think he's the best player in the world, best player I've ever seen for Spurs. But I think there's more to come from the lad. He's only young. I think you're going to see him improve next season. I think Anne's going to believe in him. So for me, you keep him.
Does anyone have a different opinion to keep him on Johnson?
Yeah, I think I do. I'm not overly convinced of him. I'm quite frustrated with him in front of goal. I think his ability's not been great. I think in front of goal, he doesn't always make the right decision. He takes too long. He doesn't have a strong shot on him. I wouldn't be that fussed, But look, how many players do you keep? How much time do you give him? Do you give him another year? You give him 2? All right, we keep Johnson. We keep him for another year. Get to the end of next season. We finish 5th, 6th. He hasn't really scored that many. It's another year down the line. Or do you say he's not been the best first, get rid of him and get someone else in? I don't know. It's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. But hand on heart, have I been happy with Johnson this season? Not really, no.
I think it's fair to say, Gary, Ange Postecoglou has said many times in a lot of press conferences that in that final third, there is a lot of growth still to happen. And when you think of how many opportunities, I know we've spoken about it already, Richarlison has missed, Timo Werner has missed, Brennan Johnson. I think there is so much more improvement to happen. So whether we go down the line of signing, a number of new attacking players or just improve these players that they can finish a lot better than they have done, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Richard, let me come to you. Jed Spence, I know you were quite excited when we signed Jed Spence. 4 Premier League appearances for Spurs, 2 in the Cup. It now looks like he's going to head out the door on a permanent basis. Do you think that it's been quite unfair on him, or do you think that it is just the fact that he has had a bad attitude?
I was just about to say, athletes should be attitude over ability. and his attitude has not been right from day one. You hear about obviously missing meetings and turning up late for meetings. Initial meeting with Ange Postecoglou, apparently he was late. He's got great ability. Right, you watch him at Spurs, you watch him on his loan deal in Italy. Great on the ball, the ability to beat players, crossing him, the ability to move inside as well with the ball, which would have worked really great with Ange. But it looks like obviously Ange is going down this real route around. He's investing a lot of time and effort in the actual players themselves, what kind of humans they are, what kind of attitude they have around life, and he sees Jed as maybe somebody that's just wasting his career because of his attitude's not really on point, which is very disappointing. I remember at Forest looking at his ability and knowing that he would kind of slot into our system because of how dynamic he is and how much work rate he was doing with Forest. But unfortunately, like we're not seeing that, have we? And I don't think he's got the actual minutes on the pitch for Spurs because of that. And there literally have been minutes that we've actually seen him, and that can just be down to the player. If his attitude is not right and he's not applying himself within the team, he's not being a team member. And remember what we say about, like, there's no I in team. You can't have people like that taking liberties and they're not contributing to the whole dynamic of the team. And I think he's one of those players that has really let himself down. From what I hear from some of the sources that I know in Forest, they've been really disappointed within like the transition between kind of becoming a Spurs player and then actually not showing his real potential. And then you look at obviously past managers such as Neil Warnock kind of saying, "I told you so." That's the reason why he wasn't kind of successful at a team within his management, because he just couldn't perform and he just couldn't actually kind of stick to rules. He wasn't very professional, and he liked the lifestyle. So unfortunately for me, it would be cash in at this point. But very sorry to do that.
Yeah. Joe, let's come to you. Mickey van der Ven, 23 years old, contract runs until 2029, 27 starts in the Premier League this season, 3 goals. We kept 5 clean sheets with him in the team. He also played 1 FA Cup game, 1 League Cup game. I tell you what, for a player that had only played 30-odd games for Wolfsburg to come into the Premier League, get all of the awards this season for Tottenham Hotspur Player of the Season, he has been incredible, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I saw them clips of him. Remember the clips? There was one particular game for Wolfsburg where he ran the length of the pitch to make a block. It was just incredible. And just based on that, I wanted to sign him stupidly, you know. And then you think to yourself, we're going to sign him, but he obviously won't be making blocks like that every week. But he virtually was. So he was our new... Do you remember Scotty Parker? His Tottenham career consisted of putting fires out every game, all over the pitch. He'd put fires out for Tottenham. And that's Mickey van der Ven. He's the fireman. He's putting fires out all the time, you know. Been an absolute revelation. He's like a beast, with his speed. But I remember, who was it? Sherwood was criticising him, saying he could only run in straight lines. He wasn't any good with the ball at his feet, It's like, well, you look a little bit wrong there, mate.
Wooden, he called him.
Wooden. Yeah, wooden.
Oh,
yeah, wooden.
Roll on, honestly. What a stupid thing to say.
Wow.
Absolutely stupid thing to say. He literally was our player of the season last year. So he's the future. I mean, I really like the look of Dragusin and Romero when the 3 of them are on the pitch together. You kind of think, well, that might not be the actual template blueprint for Ange Ball. It's probably 2 defenders, basically. But I like the look of them 3, and then 1 or 2 of them have got the licence, not only being Ange Ball, Romero, not only to push into midfield, but to play as an auxiliary 9. It's mental, So, yeah, obviously we're not going to sell him, although I suppose people like Real Madrid will come knocking within a season or 2, unless we can start to really step up to the plate ourselves and start, challenging for major honours again. He's obviously loved at the club. So, you know,
Yeah.
he's a really good lad as well. So all you can do is heap praise on him, you know?
Melvyn, let's come to you. Papa Matar, still only 21. His contract runs out in 2030. A total of 45 appearances for Spurs, 3 goals, 4 assists. He's now been at the club for 3 seasons. And Postecoglou has had a lot of midfield trios this last season. Is Papa Matar one of those players that is always on your team sheet?
It's a tricky one because it's a real tricky one because this season the midfield wasn't really as settled as let's say the back line. The back line always picked itself, you know, but the midfield 3, he chopped and changed. I don't think he even knows how the midfield 3 is going to line up next season. I know he has his transfer targets and that's a different kind of show, but I don't think we even know our best 3. I mean, if we named our favorite 3, I don't think we probably would name 3 different kinds. You know, someone will say Sarr, Bissouma, Maddison. Someone will say Bentancur, Bissouma. You know, so it's tricky because he played really, really good this season. I'm happy to have him in our team, and I think he is. Again, I'm going to say this: he's a young player. He's a young lad, and to play. Yeah. To do that jump and come into Premier League football and play so well, and he scored a couple of goals, and you can see there's a real player in there. I mean, I was there when he played in the San Siro versus Milan, and I thought him and Skip in the middle played really well, and then I thought there's no way Conte is going to drop him, and he did, and he dropped him, and he played Skip till the end of the season, and look, out of the 2, which one is the real gem? You know, Sarr, he's tall, he runs, and there's a goal in there as well. I mean, he tries to shoot a lot from the edge of the box, which I like. And one day, one of those is going to go top bins, and it's going to be an absolute screamer. But I think till then, he's going to keep hitting row Z because he tries to shoot the guy, but he's not there yet. But the rest of his game, I really like. I think he needs to sharpen up his passing and be. He misplaces his passes a bit, and I also notice when he passes, he doesn't like Eriksen used to give you the ball and you could cushion it and run with it. The way he passes, the ball sometimes bounces off of him, or it doesn't give you the ball where you're in the best position. I think he still needs to learn that aspect of the game. I think, again, I'm going to say this again, he's still a young player, but from what we've seen, there's still a lot of value in him playing it and sticking through the bad moments, because you just know he's gonna learn, and he's gonna erase those from his game, and we're gonna have a proper gem in our hands. So,
Craig, let's come to you, Radu Dragushin, 22 years old. His contract runs out in 2030. He's made 9 appearances for us in the Premier League, 5 from the sub bench. What have you made of him in a Spurs shirt? I know it's probably quite difficult to say too much because we haven't seen enough of him. But do you think he's going to get a lot of game time, bearing in mind that we are in the Europa League next season? And what do you make of the agent keep coming out of all of these comments? Because when we were shipping goals left, right and centre, the likes of Newcastle and Fulham, the agent kept saying, well, Radu should be in the team because they're conceding too many goals.
Yeah. Just like I say, I think this is the longest podcast I've ever done. I could have probably flown to Portugal by the time I listened to this.
Yeah, just to let you know, my phone ain't going to last much longer. It's going to die because it was on 100%. It's now flashed up saying less than 8.
How many players we got left, Chris?
Only a couple. We know that Craig's got to take. Craig, have you got another takeaway coming?
That's what it is.
No, it's bloody nearly midnight. What time do you think I eat? Jesus Christ! No.
I've not had my dinner yet.
Oh God!
Craig is the Tongion Don Ballet of this podcast, by the way.
We wasted half an hour on Fraser Foster.
Yeah, ain't that fat, Chris? Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. No, Dragusin. Well, first of all, I would keep him. What I've seen of him, I've been pretty impressed. I didn't think he had a particularly good debut. I thought he looked a bit shaky. I wasn't sure, but he's grown into it. He's a big, strong lad. He's good in the air, which I think we lack sometimes at the back there. I do like what I see. As for the agent, he's kind of just needs to keep his nose out, doesn't he? Really, I don't know why he's getting involved. You could tell he was going to be a bit griefy when we signed him because he was all mouth. So, thank you. I'll be here for next season. Don't worry. I've signed a new contract. Look, the agent is a lot of them are like that. Say stupid things, and I don't quite know what he thinks he's doing. But Dragusin chose us over Bayern Munich. Remember that. So but he's going to get more game time next year because we're in Europe again. So you'd like to think we'll be playing hopefully 50 games next season, perhaps more if we're lucky. So look, there's going to be plenty of game time for him next season. Keep.
Rich, let's come to you. Destiny Udogie, 21 years old. His contract runs out in 2030. He played 28 Premier League games for us last season, 2 goals, 3 assists. And weirdly, what a weird stat this is, we only kept 2 clean sheets while he played those 28 Premier League games. And he also played 2 in the FA Cup. But what a great season from Destiny Udogie in his first Premier League year.
And a lot of plaudits from ex-professionals and in some of their teams of the season. So quite interesting. I think because of how he develops the play as well, and obviously comes inside and it's a different aspect of kind of loading that midfield, how he drifts in and then becomes part of that transition between the back and midfield, and obviously being a threat in attack as well. Brilliant, I think, because obviously we forget he had been injured towards the end of the season, so forgetting how much he had improved throughout the season and how much of a threat he has been. He's a player where 100% fit, that he can be a real threat on the pitch, and without him, I think we missed some kind of spark that we didn't have previously. Obviously, sharpen up in front of goal, he'd have more goals for sure. But a great young player that I think he could have the same kind of impact as Van der Ven. I think he's brilliant, and so much energy, fast, dynamic, strong on the ball. Also, not afraid that when he makes a mistake to kind of try to rectify that. Yes, discipline-wise. Start the season had a couple of times where obviously got sent off against Chelsea, etc. But I think I like that. I like when players have got that bite. Like Papa Sarr's got it. He's kind of into the crunch, into the tackles. I think Udogie is going to be a great player for us next season. I think watch this space with him for sure.
Gary, let's come to you. Dane Scarlett and Troy Parrott. I just wanted to get your opinion on these two, whether you would sell, keep or loan them out again, because Troy Parrott, he's been playing at Excelsior, the Dutch club. In the last couple of weeks, he scored 2 hat-tricks and, of course, scored the winning goal for the Republic of Ireland. Is it time to give someone like Troy Parrott a chance in a Spurs shirt?
Well, we need to do something, didn't we? I mean, probably is. Is he going to get a chance, though? I don't know. Dane Scarlett, what I've seen of him when he's come on for us, he's not really been amazing. I feel terrible saying that because I know his family and stuff, but not been great either. But I generally don't know with Parrott. I think, probably they're going to be sold at some point or sent out on loan. Just can't really see them fitting into the team, if I'm honest with you, Chris. But I don't know. I mean, maybe Andrew's got some plans for them, but I can't see it with either.
John, let's come to you. When you look at how the development side have done this season, of course, winning Premier League 2, also getting to the Premier League Cup final, how does Ange integrate some of these players, or do you think he will just send some of them out on loan? What is best? What's the best situation here?
I guess it just depends how they do in training. He'll be open to it. Levy would love him, obviously, to bring players through, and you know, everyone's transfer value goes through the roof and all that stuff. But it just depends how they do in training. They're said to be a particularly good bunch. They're Donnelly and Mikey Moore, isn't it? They look good, but you just never know. You know, young players get hyped up so much that remember we heard on and off over the last few years, Dane Scarlett was so special. Mourinho said it, and he hasn't done much.
Yeah.
You just never know, especially with the forwards. You know, you never just know until they start playing enough men's football. You know, and the trouble with us, we've not loaned out people like Harry Winks. We never done a favour because he should have been loaned out more. You know, he's obviously a decent player, but didn't really develop sufficiently. So I guess because Ange is changing the whole culture of the club, and part of the brief will be to incorporate more the youth, because there were obviously, it wasn't firing on all cylinders, our youth system. And you have to say, maybe it's the wrong way of looking at it. I think Crystal Palace have got 4 players in that England squad that's named today. I think. Am I right? I think there's 4. I think there's 4 of them.
4.
We've got none. Something's not quite right there. Maybe now with this present lot, come the next Euros, hopefully there'll be a few Spurs players in there. But it's just down to men, you know, if they can get their heads around men's football. You know, this Mikey Moore seems to be rated very highly, but men's football, I've seen it, you know, when my younger boy was around the academies for years, and I've seen that thing where they make the jump to men's football, and it's quite an academic world, academy football. Lots of nice tippy-tappy football, and it's all within that level, within that context. It's all very impressive until you come up against some, you know, defenders called Psycho and Mad Dog in National League, you know, or something. And then it's, you know, although that it's a bit unfair, there's some very decent players at National League level. But as you go down the pyramid, you know, you start coming up against get people who want to kick you up, you know, quite hard as well, and they know how to do it, and that's another matter if you can take that, you know. I mean, what about Elfie Devine? What do you think, Chris? What do you think? Do you think any hope for him, Elfie Devine? I don't think we've discussed him tonight, have we?
No, there's a lot of decent players there in the under-21 setup, and it's going to be interesting because we're all talking about, you know, players that we want to sign for the future and make the club you know, more successful and developing, and about progression. But there are a lot of very, very decent players coming through, and I just hope that some of them do get opportunities, you know, certainly in the Europa League, but, you know, when we're 1-0 up, 2-0 up, 3-0 up, whatever in games, and then give them the last 20, 30, 40 minutes of a match. But there are so many situations with a lot of these young players.
It's just so difficult to say. I saw this young striker years ago, and he played for Tottenham, and he had his debut at White Hart Lane in the Europa League. He missed a penalty, and as I said at the time, he's never going to get anywhere. Typical lightweight academy product, especially with the forwards. Obviously, really not doing a good job whatsoever there. And of course, that was Harry Kane, who went on to score a few goals for us. So I'm happy to say I got that one completely and utterly wrong. But look what it took. He went out on loan before that, didn't he? He went out on loan after that. And it's you never know. Yeah. As Richard said, again, you know, attitude over talent, you know?
Yeah. Melvyn, just want to get your thoughts on Alfie Dorrington and Jamie Donnelly. Do you think that Ange Postecoglou will use them in the first team next season? A lot more that's done. And do you think that it will be possible for them to go out on loan?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't live in the UK. I've not seen much of them. Probably this question should be aimed at you, because you watch these boys and you go to the games more than probably all of us. I don't know about how many. So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to throw it to you.
I just asked him about Elfie Devine. He wouldn't answer, Melvyn. Push him to get an answer off him.
Because Chris, you watch these guys, and you should really be answering this question, not me. Because I've
said all year. I've said all. I have said all year that I have been very surprised at how some of these guys have not got opportunities, particularly when we have had so many injuries and suspensions. I do hope that a lot of these players do get opportunities. If they're not going to get opportunities, I think a lot of them will be knocking on Andrew's door saying, well, send me out on loan then. Because I think that some loan spells can be very successful. But we've seen this season where some loan spells have been very unsuccessful and they have been a waste of time. But when I think that, when you look at this season, when they've gone and won the Premier League 2 league, and it's been very easy for them, they've pretty much walked the league, they've walked the season, they've been exceptional, some of these players. I don't think a lot of those players want to continue in the under-21. So if they're not going to get game time in the first team, they're going to want time out on loan. Because you take Ashley Phillips, for example, they're playing week in, week out. They're going to come back. What are they going to do? Wait around for 1 or 2 appearances in a cup competition, or do they want to play regular first team football all the time? It's going to be very, very interesting. It all depends on what Ange does. But we were told when Ange was appointed, which was 1 year today, by the way, we were told that he was going to use the youth system a lot. I don't think we've seen that this season, so I hope that we do see it next season. The very last question for all of you, and Craig, we'll start with you. We'll go round one by one. I just want to know your expectations for this summer transfer window, because I know, Craig, me and you spoke last night at length on another show, another podcast, and I said that I think that Spurs need at least 7 signings through the door, and I probably expect about 12 players to go out the door. It would be great if we got more signings in, but I think we need at least 7 very, very talented, decent players in the door. But what are your expectations? What would you be happy with?
I'd just like to say I don't think we covered Maddison, and I'd keep Maddison unless I missed him. We did we? Did we?
Yeah,
where was I? Was I?
You were thinking about your Big Mac.
I don't like them. I honestly don't like Big Macs. They're horrible.
If anybody's from McDonald's, send him some free Big Macs.
Do you know what? I haven't had a McDonald's for ages. Actually, I could eat one now. Anyway, back to the question, which was the transfer window. What I expect to what I would like are probably 2 different things. I would imagine we'll get him 4 or 5 players. Hopefully they'll all be Angie's targets and ones he's approved. But as we said last night, I think we reeled off 6 or 7 positions, Chris, we could do with strengthening in, didn't we? Left back, centre back, holding midfielder or a number 8, an attacking midfielder, and a couple of strikers, ideally, to be honest, and perhaps another winger. So there's plenty of work to be done. I still think we could perhaps see a player go out the door that we're not perhaps expecting to go out the door this summer. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Bissouma left. But then again, I wouldn't be upset if he went. I wouldn't be upset if he stayed. The same, actually, for me with Kulusevski. I know somebody else answered the Kulusevski one. But for me, he's had a good season, but he is a little bit different. I don't think he's a proper Ange winger. If you want my opinion on that, I just think he slows the play down sometimes, cutting inside. I think you could be an upgrade in that position. But do you keep Kulusevski if we bring in somebody like Eze? A midfield of, for example, Bentancur, Eze, and Maddison. I mean, that is a hell of an attacking midfield. So, but there's work to be done. There is work to be done. So going back to your question, I think we'll bring in 4 or 5, but I'd love 7 or 8, to be honest. But I do want to see players go out the door as well, and a lot of players at that. We just need to clear the decks.
A huge summer ahead. Richard, what are your expectations for the summer transfer window?
Yeah, so I think for me, obviously early doors, obviously maybe taking advantage of some of the FFP. With obviously there's 4 or 5 teams that are going to have to sell players before the 30th of June. Maybe we'll pick up a player or 2 in that respect. I'd like to see, obviously, those kind of 5 or 6 players come in. But I also think it's really important for the academy and the investment in the academy to see those player pathways into the team. I think as a fan, I think it's fantastic to see a player that's come through the academy to get obviously first on the bench and then obviously those minutes and develop the players that way. I think it's really important that we see like the club developing players and then getting those first team minutes. And that might be in respect we send some of these players out on loan and then they come back into the team environment with that experience and then come into the team and have an impact on the pitch for Spurs. But I think we definitely need to, like you said before, Chris, see more of that, see more of those players, not just the odd player doing that. We're not a good enough team not to do that. When you look at obviously 5th place position last season, I want to see us now really push on and be ruthless with the players that we get, players that add value, add talent, add ability, but also that we really develop the players that we've still got. I think it's going to be a busy summer. I think there's going to be plenty of comings and goings. I think it started off obviously in September and January for last season, but I think this season is going to be quite exciting, and I think we might have an unexpected really big, exciting name come through the door that's seeing the team, seeing the methodology of the manager, and actually I want to be part of that exciting team moving forward.
Joe, what are you expecting? Big things?
I don't know. Jury's out. I mean, we've had so many letdowns in the close season in the past, so I'm not so sure.
Let's end it on a positive.
I don't think we're going to get 7 players in. I don't think so. I think more likely 4 players. Hopefully they're big players as well. You know, I'd love to see Ezzy come, and he seemed to be getting on with Maddison and the others pretty well. You know, when we played QPR, and I like the look of that Ezzy. Looks great player. I'd love to get someone like him in. The pursuit of Conor Gallagher tells you something. You know, that if he doesn't get Gallagher, he's going to want another very mobile, energetic, number 8 kind of player. You know, I think he'd be happy with Star. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be surprises. I'm sure someone like Kulusevski is going to go, or Bissouma. There'll be some surprises. And we shouldn't be surprised if someone like Rodon comes back and incredibly gets, you know, he decides to give him a go. They renewed his contract today. Obviously, you would have thought we were getting loaned out again, probably back or sold to Leeds. But there will be surprises. But I don't see 7 players. I'm just not sure. There's been so many times we were going to sign Dybala. We were going to go for that other Argentinian striker at Inter Milan or something, you know, and it doesn't happen. So I'm not too sure about. I'd love to think that was going to happen. So, you know, and I think part of the brief would be to incorporate the academy players in cup competition next year. Very difficult proposition that, as we know, establishing academy players into men's football. It's so difficult because everyone wants it until you start getting beat 3-0 at home in the League Cup by, you know, Middlesbrough or something with youngsters in the team, and then everybody's up in arms over it. So it's difficult, you know. But I think more likely, I think 5 or 6 out, 3 or 4 in is what I think. And I think he'll look at the spine of the team. I don't think Manor Solomon would go anywhere. I don't think Levy would be having that. So I would suspect you're going to have Werner and Manor Solomon fighting for that left wing berth, you know, along with Son at times playing there or down the middle. But I think, you know, hopefully, I think he will go for a good number 9, maybe Tony or somebody, an attacking midfield like an Ezzy. But we really need somebody to shield that defence properly. So we need a proper number 6 as well. You know, so the spine of the team being attended to. And I do wonder if we might start playing 3 at the back at times this year, because you've kind of got the players. You can't get away from the fact he's got the players to do that. Whether or not he'd go with a width of wing backs as opposed to his wide players, I don't know. That's probably not Ange ball, you know. So I'm reasonably optimistic, but you know, I've seen too many close seasons that nothing really happened. You know, we've been disappointed. You know, and to be fair with him, he's not somebody who's going to demand marquee signings. He's going to demand the players he wants, you know, and hopefully he gets those. Because if he doesn't, I think there'll be trouble, you know. So I'm cautiously optimistic we'd have 3 or 4 good new players in there, you know. But you never know with Tottenham. We might cut at the end of it, you know, be disappointed. But we got to have like the likes of Eze would really lift the place. Ivan Toney would be incredible. You know, I think it'd be fantastic. You know, and a good number 6. I can't think of who that good number 6 would be. It'd probably be someone from the continent. You know, I don't know who that would be. But we need to get somebody who can fill that role. So that's my 2 pence with it. Night's getting on, so I'll shut up.
Gary, let's come to you. We keep being linked with Eze, Gallagher, Ivan Toney, Dominic Solanke, all with Premier League experience. Would you like to see one of them or all 4 of them in a Spurs shirt next season? And what are your expectations?
Oh, God, yeah, I'd love to see all 4 of them. It's not going to happen, though. Let's be honest. We're probably going to get, I reckon it will be 7 will go out, 4 at most will come in. I mean, we need left back, right back, central midfielder, and we need a striker. Are we going to get all of those? I'm not so sure. But Eze, I think, is a done deal. I think that will definitely happen. Putting Ivan Toney in there would be amazing, but I don't think we'll sign him. But I think 7 will go out, 4 will come in. But we definitely need a left back, a right back, central midfield, and a striker. But will we get all of those? Who knows? Time will tell.
Melvyn, have you got big expectations? Because we had a big window last summer, the first under Ange, and surely this has got to continue because the recruitment has been decent since he has arrived.
Yeah, I think if you look at last summer, right, the signings we've made, what's the common dominator between Vicario, Van der Ven, Dragozin? All 3 of them were the second option.
Yeah,
you know, we were linked. I think the data side of the recruitment really has been positive. I think what will happen this summer will be linked with players that we want, that will be our first target. And if they don't happen, I believe Spurs will always have a second option or a third. They will have options lined up just in case the first option doesn't happen. Postecoglou said in Australia, I think, that what word did he use? I think he said he's calm about it or something like that. He used the word about the transfer window. He said they're all on the same page. They're all calm about the situation. He has trust in the team, in Lang and all, in Paratici. He's very calm about it, and they're all on the same page. And they know. I think Postecoglou knows where we went missing, where we lacked depth this summer. So I expect us to not always get the first, let's say Eze. We might not get Eze. We go for the second option. It's Tottenham. It always happens, and fans will be angry because it's not the first option. They will say it's the cheap version, but sometimes sometimes your number 2 target might be better than your first. You know, we wanted Tapsoba. Who knows? Van der Ven was just as good, if not better. Sometimes you just have to be calm and patient, and these things work themselves out. And I'm confident that we have targets that we'll get, and maybe Levy and Paratici will pull out, you know, players that we have never even heard of. You know, we didn't even mention Louis Bergvall in this podcast, which is a player that we probably will start to get excited about when we see in a Spurs shirt. That will be a signing in its own. You know, he can play multiple positions in midfield. So it's going to be an exciting summer. It's going to be a summer of long podcasts when we sign players, when it goes good, when it will go bad. Because there's always a
Great,
podcast.
delighted.
There's always one podcast every summer when we miss out on a transfer that we want, and me, Craig, and Gary are on.
I'm just thinking, Richard completes a marathon quicker than we've done this podcast.
Oh my
Well,
God.
that's it.
I had to leg it to the toilet. I honestly was holding on for dear life.
Mate, you know
Craig-
what I love about being on the podcast with you, Gary, is your missus makes more positive contributions, especially when you go to the loo, mate, for a dump.
Yeah. She's trying to get the dinner sorted. It was meant to be
I know,
at 9 o'clock.
you can see him in the background on the mirror.
Yeah.
Well,
You can see you in the mirror. She goes, I thought you was finishing at 9. I said, no, it's gone over a little bit. Thanks, Jay, for that. It's gone slightly
it's
over.
gone over a little bit. Yeah, thanks to everybody sticking with us for this long, a 3-hour podcast.
I don't know how
Craig,
my
thank you
battery
so. Craig, thank you so much for joining this 3-hour podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Where can people find you?
In McDonald's.
Find me wherever you want. I don't care. I've lost the will to live. No, seriously. At Dearman 9 on X, if you want to follow me, that'd be lovely. But I am busting to go to the loo, and I have been for the last half hour, and I refuse to get up. So see you later. It's all been good.
Thank you,
it's been
Craig.
good fun.
Thank you. And Richard, thank you so much. Before you do go, tell everyone about the Richard Whitehead Foundation, how people can get involved.
Yeah. So obviously people can follow me on Marathon Champ on X, but also on Instagram, but also the work that I'm doing with foundations all over the UK. So if you're a runner yourself or wants to be involved in a physical activity, give back to the disability community, or actually just enable your own ambitions, we've got places in events such as the Run Series event, so Great North Run, Great South Run, which is in Southampton, as well as London Marathon and some of the other events. And we're starting to have some connections with the Park Run events as well. So definitely get involved. It's really empowering, and sometimes it's great to give back, pay it forward. And I think as well, when you're helping other people through volunteering, like obviously we heard about the work within Tottenham, I think it's really important that we not only support the team, but actually support the community as well. And that's what I'm doing with the foundation and a lot of the other work that even the Tottenham Foundation are doing. So even if you don't support the Richard Whitehead Foundation, do something externally for the Tottenham community. It's really important.
Well, keep up the great work, Rick.
Please follow Chris.
Thank you. Jar, pleasure having you back. I'm so sorry that it went over, but you are partly to blame for that.
Wait a minute. It's been a test. I'm 65. It's been a good test of my prostate. And I've come through with flying colours. No rushing.
I haven't.
Yeah, not bad. And my missus has made me 3 big mugs of tea. And I'm still good. I'm relaxed. I'm zen-like.
Well, Jar, thank you so much for joining us. Tell everyone where they can find you and what are you up to in the near future.
Important thing, you can just put Google Jar Wobble gigs, but Merton, Google tuned in Merton. As I said, it's a community thing. We've been going for a few years. Come down if you want to play music. You can come down. You can make a record with us there if you like. I do it with a guy called John Klein, who was in Susie and the Banshees, and that's every other Monday and every other Tuesday. So Merton, if you want to come down and learn an instrument, you can. If you already play a little bit, come down. Everyone's included. So Merton Art Space, tuned in.
So could we all come down as a podcast and record a Tottenham themed song? Could we?
Well, he's a Fulham fan. The other geezer I do it with, I go with him occasionally. He couldn't. He went to the youth game as well. You know where we got smashed in the youth game as well. And of course, so it's been painful this year at times playing it there. They were particularly harsh after we got smashed in the league game there, let alone the League Cup. But you're all welcome to come now and do some stuff. And we're a bit involved with AFC Wimbledon, or I go and watch them as well, with sporting the community as well, so walking football and stuff like that. But so there you go. So thanks for the chance to plug that, Chris. And thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you here. Thank you, Jar, and look forward to having you on again soon. I don't know whether Gary's still... No, he's not with us. We mentioned the singing and he's just disappeared, just like that. Melvyn, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Where can people find you?
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, or X, it's called now, I usually follow back. Yeah, I'm quite active, mostly about all things Tottenham. And happy to be back on. And let's see who we sign this summer. And hopefully we have a good season.
Absolutely. Well, we expect a big summer ahead. Lots of players coming in the door, lots of players going out the door. It's going to be another huge summer for Ange Postecoglou. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Your support is always gratefully received on this channel, so thank you so much. Craig, thank you. Richard, Jar, Gary and Melvyn, thank you so much for your time. And until the next one, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.